5 and 10?
Yes.
Sure.
Plenty of time.
All good.
We can get there. My first waveform is a little shrimpy, but it's still there. So
Good.
my first clap.
Oh, I was having a conversation with someone about shrimp just yesterday, and I don't remember what it was. Also, I got a shit. Oh, fuck.
What?
I had to wash my backpack yesterday.
Oh, that's never fun.
Shrimp?
No, but there was shrimp on offer. Where I went to a Greek place, a new Greek place, because I was out. I was picking up a package I'd picked up some stuff for my parents for the seasons, and I was like, well, I'm out picking this up anyways. Let's try this new food truck, which is Greek. I was like, oh yeah, great.
Hell yeah.
And love Greek food. Got it. Put the little container in my backpack flat. Got home and it was wholly vertical.
Oh no.
And so it had just leaked all of this onion and tzatziki and stuff all over the bottom of the backpack.
Gosh.
So it smelled extremely oniony. And it still
Which is fine on the first day.
Yeah, it still smells a little oniony, but it's not as bad.
Ugh.
Anyways, that's all.
Speaking of grease.
Greased lightning?
No. It's because I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's a perfect segue.
Oh, Greece.
Into the show. The game takes place in Greece.
God.
I'm sad Sam's not on the show because I was coming up with a whole speech about how he has bad opinions.
Is Greece in that show automatic, systematic, and hydromatic?
There's a lot of water, and you can tell the horse to just follow a road and go to your waypoint.
Oh, so it is greased lightning. Okay.
Pretty
Whoever
much.
wants to host, go for it. We're probably going to have a lot of dumb stuff to talk about today.
I have to look at what the episode number is. I was about to start and I didn't have the episode number in front of me.
I've done that before.
Hello, and welcome to episode 148 of the Gaming Fyx podcast. I'm your host for today, Pat. Joining me this week, we've got Alex.
Whoa, what are your partner's favorite?
I don't do that. That's an Andre thing. That's not.
Well, yeah, me too.
You just don't know how to deal
What's
with
your favorite? Who's your favorite horse? What's your favorite horse?
Oh God. Well, I don't know that many. There's like, what, you got your sea biscuits, you got your, was Atreus a horse?
I'm
No,
sure there's
not
a horse in
Atreus. Not
Atreus and
Atreus.
something.
What's the horse in the Neverending Story or whatever?
Oh shoot.
Artax, is that it?
That sounds right.
Because that's the one that he gets all sad about because it
Yes.
there's the thing.
It sinks in the
And it's
sink.
real sad.
Yeah, that sounds right. So let's say that one, even though I can't remember its name, Artax.
Yeah.
My favorite, it's probably either Shadowfax or Rocinante. And then also joining is Allison. What's your favorite horse?
Hey.
It can be a real horse or a fictional horse, one you know personally. I mean,
I guess Epona in Legend of Zelda is always a good horse.
That's good.
Or Roach.
Roach is a good horse. I had a Roach moment last night playing Assassin's Creed that we'll get to in a little bit. But unless anyone has anything to say at the top of the show, we could just go right into games. I didn't have a good segue for that. But I didn't. It would have been a good. Roach would have been a good segue, but I didn't want to talk first. So instead,
Setsuki's really fucking good, though.
Why don't you tell us
100%.
a little bit about all the tzatziki you've been eating on your boat in Spiritfarer?
What do you think, tzatziki or hummus? Like, if you have to choose a side with
hummus.
With pita bread, it's always hummus.
But I'm like,
it's hummus every single time. Tzatziki's good, but it's hummus.
I feel like hummus has like a level of versatility that tzatziki doesn't.
Absolutely.
I would eat hummus with like as a snack like every single day if I had access to it.
If you said this is some amazing hummus, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to eat it, to dip it in it, I would say, hand me a spoon,
not trying
my
hard
friend. No, I just eat it up with a spoon.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
I mean, hummus is perfect.
But also, it's like, you don't have anything to dip it in. It's like, do you have literally anything in your home?
Yeah, sure.
Like
potato chips?
Just
Do you
looking
have
around,
carrots?
just looking around my apartment, like I have some bagels. I would dip bagel bits in there.
You can. I can't think of anything except like maybe like I probably wouldn't want to dip chocolate into hummus.
Isn't chocolate hummus a thing?
Probably.
It is.
I'm sure there is.
Dessert hummus exists. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which I don't understand the feeling. So the first question is chocolate hummus good for you? And I assume no.
It's probably better for you than other things.
What about like dark chocolate hummus? That might be a little good for you.
I mean, hummus is like good for you, but it still has a bunch of oil and stuff in it. So
right, it's like very variable because it's like it's made of chickpeas and it has like, healthy stuff in it, but it's also very like it has a lot of oil in it, and it's
if you're not eating like plain green vegetables, you could be eating something better for you.
Right.
So there's a really wonderful Lebanese place near me, and one of the items is hummus in pita, where it is hummus, parsley, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and pickles in a pita.
Oh my gosh, I'd eat that.
It's really good.
One thing I think about like a sad amount of times is that in downtown Minneapolis there used to be they had the department store that ended up Macy's, but it changed up to being a bunch of different department stores. But it had a basement kind of food court type area that had a lot of different things that you could have. And one of the things that they had was this giant hummus plate that I sometimes got for lunch because it had like vegetables, it had like feta cheese on it, it had like little things of pita, and it was just like so stupidly good. And I'm like, man, and they ended up closing the store, and I'm like, I want that hummus plate, and I know that I could like recreate it, but it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
They probably made their own hummus, right? So like
it was
you
good
won't be
hummus
able to,
too.
yeah, you won't be able to get it totally right. There's 2 Greek food options near me. One of them is like a 5-minute walk around the corner, which it's a wonder that I don't just eat it every day. But then the other one is like a 5-minute drive away, and they're both very good. The 5-minute drive one has a like falafel plate that includes like saffron rice, which is just fantastic. But either way, give me some falafel and give me some hummus. That's a meal right there.
Oh my gosh,
something on the side. That's all I need.
Yeah, one of the places when I was working downtown and actually in person, and I miss it all the time, is they had the Middle Eastern chain Naf Naf. And it's
I've heard of that,
kind of like fast foody, but it's like I'd always get a bowl that had couscous and hummus and either like shawarma or falafel, and it was like it was so dang good. Like I had it like every week.
I gotta say, when my friends discovered shawarma, I had to point out you can put French fries on anything. There's nothing stopping you from putting. There's never been anything stopping you from putting French fries in there.
It was just like it was just a shawarma meat.
Is that not? Oh,
no, French fries.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they don't have to be in a. Yeah.
So since I don't eat meat, the only shawarma I've ever had is like falafel.
Shawarma is just
like falafel. It's the meat cylinder thing that they spin around. They spin around and roast.
Okay. And then they like shave bits off of it.
It's like a mixture of beef and lamb or something, I think technically, but I can't remember.
But this was like chicken shawarma, but but yeah, no, it was
wonder why they with this place called it vegetarian shawarma then. That's stupid. Just call it a French fry sandwich.
What? So wait, there wasn't anything like that in there? It was just French fries?
It was like green onions and tomatoes and feta and shawarma and French fries. And falafel.
Doesn't a French fry sandwich exist, and isn't it British, and isn't it called a chip buddy?
Oh, that is 100%.
Sure.
Too bad we don't have Sam here. Anyways, I also like tzatziki. But
today the other British thing that happened this week was people discovered that whipped cream in the UK is sold as squirty cream.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And so that was a everybody being like, wait, what the fuck is going on?
So I'm pulling this up. I want to say I feel like Andre today. This and this is not in any way
going down a rabbit hole of like
not in any way meant to denigrate like the culture around behind Greek and Middle Eastern food. So nobody at me about that. I respect that. But this restaurant, who shall remain nameless because I don't want to drag a specific restaurant because they make good food. They have a beef shawarma, a Bucharest shawarma, a chicken shawarma, and a vegetarian shawarma. The vegetarian shawarma has tomato, cucumbers, peppers, onions, feta cheese, fries, and mayonnaise sauce wrapped in a pita.
I mean, that sounds pretty dang good.
It is good. I mean, it's good.
I mean,
but
if they put all those vegetables onto a skewer and spun them around a roast, I guess you could chop down that.
It's a mostly cold sandwich.
Then that's
The fries are hot, but
yeah, they're hot. But I don't know. That ain't a shawarma, but.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it sounds delicious, but
this is the part where I feel like Andre. I feel like if it's a kind of meat, then it can't be chicken or beef. Like you got to pick one: is shawarma chicken or is shawarma beef?
What do you mean?
You know
what?
Well, you said it's a kind of meat.
Yeah, but it's like specifically like the way that it's prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. So they put chickens, they stick the chickens on the spit and then spin the chicken around. That's what I'm hearing.
It's like you put it on you put meat on a thing and it's like in kind of like a
it's like a pile.
Yeah. I've just never seen a chicken on one of those things at one of these restaurants.
They usually
it's not like a full chicken. It's like It's like you do
like chicken boobs, and then they just stack those on.
They stack them up. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
With specific marinades and stuff. And
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa.
Man, now I could go for that, but like.
Yeah, we might be getting Greek food later now. I understand that shawarma is not necessarily Greek food.
Don't put it in your backpack. Learn from my lessons.
Don't worry. I'm actually very paranoid about carrying food with me, so I will only ever have it in a bag that is like for the food that is separated from other things.
Because boy howdy, let me tell you, a backpack what smells like onions real bad sucks.
I had a heroic move this week where I brought home, it was my partner's birthday on Thursday, and I brought home
happy belated birthday to them.
Yeah, I brought home ramen from our favorite ramen place, which is very good because they do vegetarian broth for pretty much any of their ramen options and tofu. So we can get like anything on the menu, which is awesome. And so we both got the like they have like a spicy Thai peanut sauce ramen.
Oh yeah, like a saute.
It's not a saute, it's a broth. They make it's just, it has like Thai chili sauce and peanuts in it. So it's this place is like Korean and Japanese and Hawaiian fusion kind of, but like ramen. So it's really tasty. And as I was coming up the stairs, I was wearing shoes that I don't normally wear because my normal shoes are falling apart, and then I stepped in dog doo-doo with them on. So they're outside and are going to be thrown away before long once I can just bring myself to throw them in the dumpster. I would clean them up and donate them if they were worth donating. Unfortunately, they are like falling apart.
No, there are always some certain things where you get rid of them and you're like, man, I just feel like, you know, that if you donated them to a place, they would just throw it out, and you're like,
that's where we're at with these shoes. They're wonderful shoes,
like,
so it's hard for me to let them go.
I could donate it, but like that's just you know.
They lasted me 6 years. I need to just spend the $100 and buy a new pair.
I do need a good new pair of shoes.
So I was carrying this ramen and a bag of groceries, and was wearing shoes I don't normally wear, which are a little longer in the toe like have a little more underhang on the leather sole. And so I tripped coming up the stairs to my apartment and just fucking beefed it. Like, because I was holding bags, I couldn't put my hands out to break my fall, which you shouldn't do if you're falling far, but this was short enough fall that it would have been better. So I came down really hard on my knee, and then my face hitting the door broke my fall.
Oh, God.
Like, just like full on. For a second, I was like, wow, did I break my neck? And but the reason I bring the story up is because I managed to somehow think fast enough to like move the bag of ramen with the fall, like it was on some kind of gimbal, and like gently place it on the ground as I like hit. So the ramen was completely intact, no damage to the containers, everything was great, birthday not ruined, even though my arm and face and knee still hurt.
I mean, honestly, I would do the same. I'd be like, okay, I gotta save the ramen regardless of literally anything else.
I yelled, "Oh fuck," as I fell, but it was because I didn't want to drop the ramen and have the broth containers explode.
I mean, if it was like
relatable,
if it was scalding hot, that certainly wouldn't have made your situation any better.
It wasn't scalding. It would have been fine if it had gotten on me. It would have just been sad because it is delicious ramen. So, and then I had to.
You know what else is pretty delicious though? On top of tzatziki, hummus, and ramen,
paying the price over the course of 24 hours for the incredibly spicy
are you trying to do a segue?
He is, but I need to make it clear. As delicious as this ramen was, I also had to have been paying a gastrointestinal price for eating it for the past day and a half.
Well,
be careful where you're putting your bodies, folks.
Make sure to mute your mic if appropriate. But in this video game that I have been playing, which is called Spiritfarer, and I think we've talked about that like 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think Alex, we've talked about like we should play Spiritfarer multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, this is not the first time
since it hit Game Pass. I've had
Same.
it installed for a long time.
Yeah, I always was like, oh, I'm just gonna come back to this because I've heard it's kind of long, and like it's like 30 hours or something, and you wouldn't expect that from looking at it.
Yeah.
And I originally started playing Yakuza. I think I talked about that last week. But having come off like a pretty significant, lots of reading kind of game, being Umineko, which there's now a review on the site of. Check it out. But yeah, being that was 130 hours straight of reading, and then the first few hours of Yakuza I played was basically reading because it was all cutscenes and stuff like that.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? I need something different. So I played Spiritfarer, which is an interesting experience. I'm not too deep in. I didn't have much gaming time this week, so I'm probably 2 hours in, maybe 3. I can't find an easy way to find the counter on the Xbox app in Windows. Maybe there is one. Maybe I'm just missing it. But either way, I don't know. Let's say 2 or 3 hours in. And it is extremely chill. If you want a chill game that like it also has a story, like it kind of reminds me of something like, let's say, Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley. But my issue with, or not my issue, the thing that ends up pulling me away from those is that it's not very directed, like either of those games. Mm-hmm. Like the progression is basically based on whatever you want to do, you know? In Stardew, it's like, oh, do you want to go into the town and date these pretty ladies or men, or like want to go into the caves and get stuff, or, you know, plant crops and make your farm bigger? Yeah, do whatever you want, you know. And Animal Crossing is Animal Crossing, you know. But this one, it is chill, and you can grow farms, and you can cook, and you can fish, and you can do all these things. But there's always a story propelling you forward. But the nice thing is that it's not pushing you. It's not like making it feel like there's a rush or like there's a time limit or there's like, you know, it just doesn't feel as though you are, you're under time constraints. It's That's just, good. You take it on at your own pace. You do the things you enjoy. But when you're ready, you can move on and do all the stuff you want. Like you can talk to these characters, you can hug these characters. There is a dedicated hug button.
Oh man.
Yep. Which is great.
You're convincing me with the dedicated hug button.
Yep. And it does improve their happiness meter.
Oh shit.
So and they do more things when they're happier and stuff like that. So
it's nice because I constantly struggle more and more as time goes on, kind of with what you're saying, where I oftentimes have a hard time enjoying certain kinds of games that don't have some kind of direction or drive to progress. And at the same time, though, like if to take something like American Truck Simulator is a good example. Yeah, I like that game, and I like progressing in it by making the money number go up and seeing more stuff. I wouldn't want that game to have a story, because as soon as you put in a narrative, suddenly it removes like the freeform nature of it. So it's nice to hear that this game both has that narrative to provide some direction and then also is not particularly pushy with it, because I think that there's often like even something sometimes like even Stardew Valley kind of this is a personal hang up. This isn't a criticism. The sort of push to like, oh, well, I know there's sort of a story here, so I feel like I need to go and play with the story stuff instead of just like hyper focusing on min-maxing my farm. And I know you could ignore the story, but the fact that like time is passing and they kind of introduce you to the game by having you go talk to all the characters and stuff has always been a sort of thing that's like, oh, well, I shouldn't just do this farming stuff. And so it's always been a hang up for me with these kinds of games of like, where is the sweet spot between offering direction and narrative and going hands off and letting you explore the systems.
Yeah. And I think it strikes the balance well, because like that's also an issue I have with those. Like that's why I bring those two games up specifically, because those are games I've tried to get into, but just there was not enough direction there. Like even if there is a minute amount, it just wasn't enough for me. Whereas this one, it does feel directed enough to where you're making progress in a more directed way, in a way which you're seeing. I can't really put a finger on it. It feels better to me than those games do.
Yeah.
And also, so I didn't know going in that it's actually a co-op game if you want. Like there are two discrete characters. There is the main girl named Stella, and she's rad. But there's also this cute, adorable kitty cat named Daffodil. And so even if you're playing alone, Daffodil is still with you all the time. And like if you're doing certain things like let's say you want to cut down a tree for a resource, you use your what's it called, your spirit light or whatever. It's something you get like literally within the first minute of the game. It takes the form of this ball of light, and with you, like it turns into whatever tool you need at the time. If you're cooking, it turns into oven mitts. If you're mining, it turns into a pickaxe. If you're cutting down a tree, it turns into like a saw. And then Daffodil, since it's a ball and Daffodil's a cat, she just ends up playing with it all the time, like going on her back and like flipping it up in the air and like spinning around and stuff. It's cute. It's great animations, by the way. It's gorgeous. But like, for example, one of the ways you see it's a co-op game is that when you're cutting down the tree, it becomes one of those saws. I forget what it's called. One of the saws that has like a handle on one end and a handle at the other end, and it's a push-pull. Whatever the proper name of those is, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's one of those, so Stella on one side and Daffodil on the other. So which basically turns into Stella pushing and pulling and Daffodil just kind of flopping around because she's a cat. But it's very adorable, and like if you had a second player, I think it would actually turn into like a mini game. But as a single player, it's still been good. It's still been, yeah, like I've had zero complaints as a single player. I'd be interested in seeing what it's like co-op, but it looks like it's fully
pet the cat?
Local. yes, if you go idle. Like there's not a pet cat button, but if you go idle next to Daffodil, then sometimes petting does happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Daffodil gets lots of love, don't worry. So yeah, again, I'm only 2 or 3 hours in. It's been really good so far. I haven't really had any complaints. It's very, like I said, very chill. It's a much nicer romp through just I don't even want to say systems heavy. It's a game with systems, but the systems aren't too intense. So far it's felt like there's not even really a fail state. But yet I've also not guided any of these spirits to the afterworld yet. So I haven't seen that mechanic and like how their happiness state and all that stuff factors in and if that changes stuff. But I can see that becoming rough in terms of a story because they do a really good job of building up these characters who kick ass and are funny and sweet and adorable and just rad. But you also are playing the whole thing knowing that your ultimate goal is to bring them to the afterlife. So you know that like at some point there's a finite end with all of them, which I'm interested in seeing how they do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I'll probably get back to Spiritfarer or talk more about Spiritfarer next week. I don't know. Maybe I'll finish it by then. We'll see.
That seems rad.
But
Yeah.
it's really good as a Game Pass game.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to get
I think it's
a
like
lot of hours out of it.
It's like $20 or something too. It's pretty reasonably
I
priced.
think it's
Yeah.
like $30.
30? Okay.
30 on Switch
yes.
and such, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
seems
so
super
it kind of-
reasonable for a game with that
yeah.
much depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been kind of like balking at that since I don't really use Game Pass, but it's like, but I might just jump in on that, especially since before the end of the year, I'd like to put some time.
Yeah, I would like to check it out for at least a little bit myself.
It's also very gorgeous. Like I can't
Yeah.
understate that enough. Like it
The screenshots look really nice.
when you see it in motion, it's even better because like the animations
Rad.
are super fluid and very expressive. Like it kind of like, you know, the static art in Hades of like the characters and stuff that doesn't really move. Imagine that, but with fluid animation that changes and like
That
it
sounds
is
cool.
very, very expressive. And that's like the whole game. And yeah, it's awesome.
I also will say I love the concept of more games should be set on boats.
Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime you get to use a boat in a game, I'm very happy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of like building up the boat, even if it looks a little ridiculous over time.
Maybe
It
you
looks
should
hilarious.
play Paper Mario: The Origami King before Game of the Year.
Probably
You're on
should.
a boat sometimes.
I'll keep an eye. $60 is if Spiritfarer were $60, I would probably be a little less inclined to check it out too.
Yeah.
That's fair, but it's yeah. I was just gonna say, I was like, that was one of my favorite sailing things in a game recently. So
That's
Well,
cool.
you know what other game has some sailing in it?
What's that?
Isn't it the one? Well, at least the series that you're playing, Pat, isn't it?
That's
Does,
true.
Does the one you're playing have some sailing in it? I don't even know.
There's a lot of sailing.
All right,
Assassin's
cool.
Creed Odyssey has a significant amount. It has the most sailing in an Assassin's Creed since basically
since
Black Flag.
yeah.
Which was basically a sailing game.
Yeah.
Yes, Rogue has a lot of sailing in it too, because it's basically Black Flag but set in the northeast of North America.
Right.
But Assassin's Creed Odyssey, turns out Greece has a lot of islands around it. There's a lot of sailing to be done. It's interesting because it kind of splits the difference a little more. Black Flag was very much a game about sailing. I mean, you spent far more time on your ship than doing stuff on land in Black
To the
Flag.
point where there's that good boat stealth.
Yes. And frankly, it's the boat stuff is more streamlined in Odyssey than it is in Black Flag, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because Odyssey has so much going on. I mean, this
Odyssey has a lot.
there's so much going on in Odyssey. You could play Odyssey almost like a service game just because there's so much to do.
Honestly, like that's like I when you're talking about it, like I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, I haven't put that much time into it. It's like, no, I've put quite a few hours into Odyssey.
Yeah, so,
I just never came close to finishing it because there's just like a million things to do in that game.
So sorry.
So I finished.
Quick question for you, Allison.
Yeah.
When you say didn't finish it, is that like the main quest or all of the side stuff also?
Main stuff, yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to go back and finish it sometime because like Cassandra is my girl. I love her, but
so
yeah, but it's just there's just so much to do. And then like when it opens up into like all the stuff you can do, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's just overwhelming.
So
a little bit, yeah.
I finished Origins and both of its DLCs a week and a half ago ish. And I think my final play count on that was something like, I'm actually going to look it up. It was something like 70 hours. And that was with, let me see here. Yeah,
that's
almost 80
the
hours. And that was, yes. However, I spent about 50 hours doing like 100%ing regions. And then I hit a point where I was like, I have to move forward. And so then I spent another 10 hours just playing the story because I had already like over leveled by a lot, and finished the base game in like another 10 hours at around 60 hours. And then the DLC took me around 20 hours between both packs. Odyssey, and that's I saw about half the map in Origins because you don't go to like half the map. Odyssey, I think, is about twice as big as Origins, if not more. And Origins it's cool and it's fun that it does this, but Origins has several large regions that are like basically big desert spaces that you kind of ride across, and it gives the world a really good sense of scale. And once you've ridden across them once, you can fast travel, so it's not like it's like a pain in the butt all the time. Odyssey doesn't really have that. It has like every region is very dense with stuff to do, and it still has an enormous sense of scale because it's just there's so much in that game, and you can definitely get lost in not finishing the plot. If you just do all the stuff that comes as it comes, then you will spend I think you could probably spend at least 150 hours doing everything in that game and doing the story. I'm not doing that because I kind of fully completed the first couple of regions just to see all the different kinds of side stuff that existed, and now I'm sort of mostly powering through the story. I'm doing side quests, but I'm not stopping at every single outpost to complete it now. And part of that is my biggest criticism of the game. I should say, I really love this game. I think it's, I think it's pretty phenomenal. It's one of the best it's one of the best games of this kind. I would put it up there with like Horizon Zero Dawn and Witcher 3 as being one of the best games of this type that I've played.
Which is, sorry, not to pull you astray, but which is
fine.
So weird to me given what Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, etc. were.
Yeah.
I think I'm not one to, there's a lot of, Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite franchises. There's a lot of people who pine for old Assassin's Creed and who have like problems with this trilogy, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, for being the Witcher 3 inspired, basically. I mean, they're basically chasing that. Totally. I don't have a problem with it. I think that they made like 9 games or whatever in the old style.
Sure.
They perfected the old style with Syndicate, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Like,
yeah.
And I think you're lying to me if you say you couldn't, you have like, if you really want that Assassin's Creed so much, you could replay those games again from the beginning. And I just don't believe that if you played all 9 of them and then went back to the first one, it wouldn't be like kind of fresh again, you know? Like, I don't think you can play like 940, or is it 9? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's 9. It's 9 exactly. You can't tell me that you play through 9 games and 100% them, and then going back to the first one is stale, unless you're saying that you're tired of playing that kind of game, in which place, why are you complaining in the first place? So I don't know. I don't have a problem with the sort of open world RPG. I think that this is going to get old too eventually, and they're going to need to find something else to do.
They needed some. I think they needed something to do. Like they needed some place to go with Assassin's Creed, and I think that I mean it when I say that they did perfect it with Syndicate. So it's kind of like they got into such a formula with those games that I think that trying something new in this vein is good. And I mean, they're good games too. So that's
right. So sorry, what ended up being your critique about this game, Pat?
So the thing I like least about this game in general, I think the story is really interesting. I'm playing as Cassandra because come on,
she's the best.
And she's an awesome character, and I love how, like Geralt, she's also a character you can play in different ways, and they're all really good. Excuse me. You can make her like super horny, like party goer, and she's great in that role. I'm playing her much more as like, I set out on this quest to do this thing, and then this is my singular purpose, and that's been really enjoyable to see her portrayal in that way. She's an awesome character. The thing that bothers me a little bit is you are given an impetus to leave the starting island, and then you have to go and kill this Spartan general, and it's more complicated than that. But in order to meet with the Spartan general that you agreed to kill, you have to help the Spartans in the region that they're in. And it's like, okay, I get it. You're doing what you have to do to complete your personal quest. So I'm going to kill a bunch of Athenians here, and they haven't really done anything wrong other than be in ancient Greece and in a military, which they were probably conscripted for. But yes, I'm going to slaughter them by the dozens, because that's what I have to do to complete my personal quest. And then there's a point at which they're like hemming and hawing about stuff that needs to get done, and I'm just like, well, let's just kill them. We obviously don't value people's lives, so
I mean,
let's just kill
honestly,
them.
by that point in the game, like by the point you get like when you're like a couple hours in, you've already killed 1 million people.
Yeah,
in this game.
And so I think it's like, and then shortly thereafter, you're in Athens, and they're like, well, we cleaned up the mess you made there. And the thing, story wise, it's okay. It's fine. And the way I'm playing it, I can easily reconcile it. The issue is these games are checklists. Like one of the most satisfying things about it's not just Assassin's Creed, but it's any of these open world RPGs, is you see something on your map compass, you see a question mark. This is true of all the way going back to Skyrim. You see a question mark on your map compass, you go there, and then it's like, oh, this is an enemy outpost. I'm going to check it off. And it's very satisfying to see it say location complete, and you finish all the objectives. It's fine when it's like bandit camps and stuff, which certainly there is a lot to unpack there as well, with a mercenary just rolling in and killing a bunch of bandits who are just trying to get by. But video game logic, I get it. What's weird to me is I'm in Athens doing quests for Pericles, and then I run past a location in Athens that's like, to complete this location, you have to kill the captain and steal the treasure. And they're like Athenian soldiers in the middle of Athens, which is the faction I'm currently working for. So it's weird to me to be like, so Socrates, hang on just a moment. I need to take a quick detour to slaughter these 4 Athenian soldiers and steal this treasure so I can check this off the map.
Like, listen, I know that we're all on the same team, but at the same time, like, I've got a checklist of quests, and
yes. And so since I'm not playing it that way because I want to play Valhalla this year, I'm just trying to get through the story. I'm not like rushing, but I am generally kind of saying, unless it's like, oh, I specifically want to do this side thing, I'm just kind of moving on. It hasn't been a problem because I've been able to say like, well, no, I'm not going to do any of the kill Athenian soldiers in Athens while I'm working for this Athenian general. But there's a little bit of like dissonance there with the like, oh yeah, pop into this warehouse and kill these 3 Athenian captains, and then Cassandra's going to give like an impassioned speech about how like she's interested in helping people to to Pericles. It's just it's a little there's a clash there that I don't think is handled particularly elegantly in the narrative design of the game.
Is that
which in other ways is really strong. So
that's the whole ludonarrative dissonance thing, isn't it? Though, like,
yes, but I think when you're talking about something like Grand Theft Auto 4 is often cited as like one of the great examples of ludonarrative dissonance in games, because you know, the character is like sympathetic in the story and then does all these bad things. It's a lot harder in this game for me to kind of it's like people's lives only matter if they have spoken dialogue in this game. And that I find a little frustrating. It's like I had a moment last night, for example, this where I'm working trying to get Hippocrates to tell me something. He needed me to go get his notes from this Athenian military doctor. It's an area that I'm not allowed to be in, so you have to sneak around. And the idea, I mean, ideally, you would stealth your way into the camp, like into the fort, and then go talk to this Athenian medic. But I fucked it up and got seen. So then I ended up in a combat with like 20 guys, and I Swiss cheesed them all because I'm playing it on normal, and it's a pretty easy game for me. Sure. Anyway, I'm not trying to
flex.
No, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, like, I don't find it particularly challenging. I played most of Origins on the nightmare difficulty, which is the one that they're like, if you want to just totally just destroy yourself trying to beat this game, they're just, I mean, they do Dark Souls combat, but they're not as hard as Dark Souls. So, but anyway, like, I'm getting chased around by 20 people, Swiss cheesing them, and like just bathed in blood by the end of it. And then I go into the tent, to like the little chamber that the medic is in, and he's like, I'm only going to go with you if you help me save this one person that's dying right here. And like, the way I'm trying to play Cassandra narratively, my answer was like, okay, yes, I'll help you first. There is a dialogue option to just say, well, I'll just kill him and then it's not a problem. You can come with me. And that's probably the more accurate thing to choose, because I just killed everyone in the camp, but I don't really want to play her that way. It just was a lot easier for me to murder everyone in the camp than try to redo the stealth sequence over again. So it's, that part of it is definitely kind of frustrating, but I also really, really like the game, love the game overall. And the sense of like discovery and exploration, and the feeling of scale when you're sailing from one port to another, the feeling of scale when you, I mean, this is it's the old trope, right? But like looking out at the horizon and seeing a snow-capped mountain that's really far away, and then looking at the map and seeing it's in a zone that's like level 30 to 35. I'm like, oh, well, shit, I want to get at least that high level because I want to go there and see what it looks like from the top of that mountain. It's really cool. And I think they improved on Origins. I really love the story in Origins, but I think from a like gameplay and narrative design perspective, they improved pretty much every aspect. The character development's more interesting. Origins doesn't have dialogue choices. It's more like past games in the series where there aren't choices. It just, what happens. Odyssey has the whole Witcher, Mass Effect, whatever choice stuff where like I made a choice early on to rescue a family that was going to be murdered by some priests in a village on the starting island. They were like, the priests were like, yo, they have the plague. We had to basically massacre this village and burn it down to stop the spread of plague. And I was like, no, you can't kill this family. So I killed the priests, and now there's plague everywhere on the island. Everyone's dying there.
It's like if you spare a certain German informant, and then that German informant comes back and bites you in the ass.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's the choice stuff is really cool. I think it's a great game. I think if you like, it's the most of the whole series up to that point. It's the one that I think, if you just want to play a good open world RPG, you should play, even if you don't have any investment in the series. So far, I've gotten out of the Animus one time, and the meta narrative this time, like out of animus, is just like, we want to find the thing the character in the story has. We want to find the spear that the main character has. And so it's not like Origins, where you open up the laptop in Origins and they're making references to the movie, which I dug, but you might not if you're not invested in the series. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely worth checking out. And I don't really like, not actually upset that I didn't play it in 2018, but it definitely would have been right near the top of my favorites list, I think, for that year, if I had it all to do over again. So highly recommended. I also gonna do these slightly out of order. I finished up the Cold War campaign. I think there's a long, deep discussion that could be had there, but I think that if you're interested in that game's campaign and story, you should go listen to them talk about it on Waypoint and listen to Jeff Gerstmann talk about it on the Bombcast. And with the caveat that I think they're both a little harsh on it, but yeah, I don't know. You talked about it last week, Alex, and my feelings kind of fall pretty soundly in between yours and like Jeff Gerstmann's, for example. I think it's fun, and it has a couple of really cool missions that are interesting and kind of different. It's also a game about Ronald Reagan telling you to go kill people in different parts of the world to save the American way of life.
I didn't give a fuck about that because he was only in it for about 30 seconds and he happened to be the president at the time. Like,
yeah, I'm with you.
If it was set in 92 and it was Bill Clinton, like, or was that Bill Clinton? Was he 92 or 94? I can't, whatever. Like, wherever it was set, it was going to be that president, and Reagan happened to be the president in the Cold War, like during this period of the Cold War. So for me, like, but I'm also not American, so maybe it does.
Yeah. So teaser for a little bit of. I mean, one, Ronald Reagan is largely responsible for the fall of the American working class. Reagan has done immeasurable harm to America and Americans. We can largely blame Reagan for Donald Trump in a lot of ways. Reagan was probably one of the worst world leaders in modern history. So
especially in terms of like long-term impact, for sure.
Yes, there's certainly a lot of rage that I feel when I see him.
Yes.
Yeah. But to your point, and I think geopolitically it's interesting because, and this is a bit of a teaser for the conversation that they had on Waypoint, but the game opens with with you kind of doing this op in follow up to the Iran hostage crisis, which was a major political football that Reagan used to get elected because of Carter's mishandling of the Iran hostage crisis. And there is a sort of conspiracy theory that is a little bit, it's still suspicious that perhaps, because the hostages were released shortly after the election happened. And so there is a conspiracy that has long stood that that the Reagan campaign was working through back channels to be able to continue to use the hostage crisis as a tool in the election. And then after Reagan was elected, then all of a sudden the hostages were released. It was a believable enough theory that Congress actually did an investigation into this, and like almost immediately were like, nope, nothing was wrong. So it's very strange still. And it's still a big question mark, I think. I am not a conspiracy theorist in any way, so I'm not saying that I necessarily believe it. I don't know. I will say that the reason that it's interesting in the context of the game is that you go and take out there's an implication that Reagan okays the mission. And I have to watch it again because I couldn't point you to the specific dialogue, but Reagan hadn't been inaugurated at the point that you do the mission in the game. So there's this kind of weird implication there that in fact Reagan has been pulling some strings prior to being inaugurated. And that's all a little fucked from a political standpoint, but I don't think it's intentional. And this is to your point, Alex. I don't think that this game is trying to say anything politically, even though it unfortunately accidentally does, because you can't make a game about international warfare without it being political. And so for me, as someone who can look at that and go, that's fucking stupid, I don't think it's harmful, and I enjoyed playing through the campaign. There's a couple of cool missions. I think some of it is kind of rote, but it was also fun in the moment to play even the stuff that's sort of retready. What I will say is, if I were to write a review, which I don't intend to do, of this game, I would have a hard time not being critical of some of the more icky political stuff, because not everyone has a political awareness that where they can play the game and write that stuff off as kind of goofy, as evidenced by, if you read that awful Washington Post piece about the game, which is about how
which now games are finally art now.
Yeah. Fuck that. So I think it's an interesting subject. I'm glad we're having the critical discussion. I'm glad that people are bagging on it hard, because I think to a mainstream audience, looking at this game as some kind of like artistic breakthrough is ridiculous, and it's like kind of dangerous in some ways. I don't want to like, I'm not trying to exaggerate, because I'm not like, oh God, somebody ban Cold War, because I like it. The thing I am really enjoying is the multiplayer, which other folks have not been as hot on, but my group of friends that I play these games with, we're having a lot of fun with the multiplayer. I like the feel. It's higher time to kill than Modern Warfare, so it has a bit more of a like, getting the jump on a couple of people does not mean you're going to win an engagement, which I find interesting. I like the weapons. They're doing super fast balance changes. Like the MP5 everyone was using it for a few days, and then they nerfed the damage of it by 33%, which is like a lot. So, and the effect, of course, was that everyone stopped using it, but I would rather them do that and then tweak it back up rather than slowly try to bring it down, which is kind of more what they did for Modern Warfare. And it resulted in, like, instead of a few days of everyone using one gun, it was like a month, and it could be frustrating. So I haven't
touched any of the multiplayer. So
the zombies is pretty fun also. I thought Black Ops 4 zombie mode was very much jumped the shark. But this one has a good zombies mode. It's a lot simpler, and it's fun. So overall, I think it's a really good, if you like Call of Duty, I think you should play this game, with the caveat that I'm kind of 50-50 on the campaign, and not 50-50 like I think it's a 2.5 out of 5. 50-50 like half of me goes, wow, that was a really fun, kind of goofy at points thing, and the other half of me goes, wow, this has some shitty stuff in it. So yeah. Did you have any other thoughts on the Blopsqua, Alex?
They do some real dumb shit with licensed music in that game.
Yeah.
There was that one scene in particular,
I can't.
in that Russian facility.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's some very good licensed music moments for sure.
It was very stupid. Where basic spoilers, I guess. I don't know. It's not that big of a spoiler. It's a funny moment of walking into this facility, and it's like, it looks like something out of a James Bond movie, where it's just enormous Russian facility in the middle of like Siberian like snow desert. Yep. And you get in there, and then like you break in through this back door, and Frank Woods is like, you ready to fuck shit up? Because he's a total dumbass. And he slams through the door, and then just the first thing he sees in front of him he takes down, but it's a mannequin, and it's like it's made to look like an American arcade, like straight out of the 80s.
Oh yeah,
with a bunch of Activision games that you can actually play. And what's the song that's playing? Oh God,
I can't remember now.
I can't remember either, but it's just straight up 80s cheese, like something you would hear in a cheesy 80s movie.
Well, it's just like, it's already out of my head, because this is part of the problem of this game, is it uses the 80s as like the music and the hair and the clothes without really understanding why the 80s was such a tumultuous time geopolitically. But there's also, I find imagery of the Vietnam War very powerful when you combine the image of helicopters flying with, you know, Creedence playing or whatever. I forget the song they use in this game. I find emotionally engaging and powerful, not for the reasons that Call of Duty wants you to. I'm not like, fuck yeah, let's go use a minigun to level this Vietnamese village. To me, it is the opposite. It is because it was such a dark, awful thing that it is impactful to see imagery from that period. And it's, you know, it's such a thing that should have guided our hand as a country more into the 90s and 2000s and didn't, unfortunately. But I can't deny that before you get into the like shitty stuff in that Vietnam mission, the image of like getting on the helicopter, hearing that music playing is strong. And they do that with music a few times during that campaign, and it's pretty cool when it hits. Which was one of the things I was hoping for the most, because I like 80s music. So I wish it had a little more like Depeche Mode and stuff. That's my my one criticism of the music. They have in one of the trailers they used Blue Monday, and I wish that had been in the game, because I love that song and it's cool how they use it in the trailer, but I wish that they had used it somewhere in the game itself. That's my Cold War music minute. The menu music is very good.
It is.
I'll say that.
It's very Jack Wall.
Yes. So listening to it while queuing for multiplayer matches, I haven't turned it off yet. Whereas I turned off the Modern Warfare music about 5 minutes after I first opened the multiplayer thing. But
yeah. Anyways, COD Blops.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good game. I think overall I would, solid 8 out of 10 for me. If not a little higher than that. I don't think it's as good as Modern Warfare as a complete package, but
it could Modern Warfare, there. We'll see.
It could get it could get there, and there's people that say that they should have done another year of Modern Warfare. We would have gotten. I'm glad that there's something fresh to play, because as much as I love Modern Warfare, it was getting bloated, and they needed a reset. So the last thing I played this week, and only for a little bit, but a game I had been watching for a bit, Prodeus, came out into early access recently. Have either of you seen Prodeus?
So when you were talking about this in our chat, I thought you meant Proteus. Yeah, and I was like, wait.
That's an issue. And I was like, isn't that out?
I was like, what? I thought Proteus was interesting, but why are we playing it in 2020? But no, so I had not heard of Prodeus.
No,
Prodeus is a retro-styled shooter, sort of in the Doom lineage, but very much taken. It's like a different branch from the way that they did 2016 Doom. 2016 Doom preserves the kind of tone of classic Doom and largely preserves the way like weapons work, with the exception of the glory kill system, of course.
Sure.
But like the shotgun in 2016 Doom largely works the way the shotgun worked in classic Doom. And then with like, the visual overhaul, Prodeus more takes the level design concepts from Doom and other early shooters, and to some extent the aesthetic. It is very much like demons and fucking scary monsters, but visual, and then it hews closer to those games visually. It is one of the most incredible looking games I've played all year, because it uses sprites along with like 3D level geometry, but the sprites look fucking amazing. And the way it animates is like not fluid in the sense that like it's still got that, like when you reload, like when you interact with your gun, it doesn't move at a fluid frame rate. It still kind of does the Doom thing where it's like you can see the frames, but it's faster than those games did, and it's really weird and interesting the way that it uses those the way it does animations. You really got to look at like a video of it to kind of understand. And then it uses super modern lighting techniques, so all the lighting in the game is incredible looking, along with these like fucking awesome sprites and really interesting animations. So it's an incredible looking game. And then its level design is basically the way that levels worked in classic Doom. But then the weapons feel super modern. They're really interesting. Like the pistol you get at the start, if you hip fire it, it's just a pistol, but you can hold down the right mouse button to aim down the iron sights of the pistol, and then it becomes like a 3-round burst fire weapon.
That's weird for Doom, because Doom definitely didn't have that.
No, yeah. So, and because the sprites are so fucking awesome looking, aiming down the iron sights of this like sprite gun is amazing looking. And then like you get 2 SMGs that are in like one in each hand, and you can fire each one individually, and then it's like left click to fire, right click to fire until you run out of ammo, or you can hold both buttons down and it does this like super inaccurate spray that'll just shred anything that's at close range. The shotgun has like a charge mode. If you hold down the right click, this is a little closer to classic Doom, and then left click just shoots it. But anyway, it's like it's incredibly fun to play. It moves really fast. The shooting feels like awesome. And then you finish, the levels are really intricate and have lots of branching paths and secrets to find and stuff, and much more. From what I've played, it's less like hammer E while you move on this wall, and more like logical and like you see a thing off in the distance and you got to figure out how to get there. And then in between levels, and this is the part I haven't dug into a ton, there's apparently like 3 different weapons for each slot, and the slots are tied to ammo type, kind of, because you can, that's not really true, because the SMGs and the pistol use the same ammo and you can bring them both. But it looks like there's a shitload of weapons in this game, with more to come. And the way, when you finish a level, instead of just going to the next level, you get a map that's like an overworld map that has like nodes on it. And so you kind of move between them, and you can go back to old levels to like almost in kind of a Metroidvania-y way. Now you have a new thing. I haven't played enough to see how much this is true, but I think the way it works is you need certain things you get in later levels to fully 100% complete earlier levels.
Right.
And it's just super cool looking. It looks great. It plays great. I'm really, really impressed with it. And it's early access. So they're going to include, it has like a 5-hour campaign already, but they're going to be adding more multiplayer support. I don't know if it has any multiplayer yet. The Steam page doesn't say it does, but it has an option in the menu for online. But it'll have multiplayer support, more campaign stuff, and more weapons and enemy types. And then there's a really robust level creator in it also, so that you can just Steam Workshop hundreds of player-made levels. It's really fucking cool. If you like retro-styled shooters, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is,
yeah, that sounds interesting.
Awesome.
Given how thoroughly disappointed I was in Doom Eternal, like this seems like something I might actually want to check out. Yeah,
I think you should. It's, again, like the big difference that it has with something like Doom 2016 is that the level design is much more classic Doom.
It almost seems like if it's a game as if modern game design had branched off of Duke Nukem 3D.
Sure.
Like if things had kept going in that direction, like just watching it, which is cool, because Duke 3D was actually pretty good.
Yeah. I would say there's no story in it like at all. So know that going in. It sets it up by saying like, you are a blah 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 and the blah 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 fighting the blah blah. I don't even remember. It's it's half a paragraph of text.
No, and it's like that, very much that game, like you're doing this, have fun.
Yes, it's
stuff.
And you're this is a video game.
it has a surprisingly long opening without you having a gun, which I thought was kind of interesting. By surprisingly long, I mean like 5 minutes, not like an hour.
That is kind of surprisingly long for a game like that, let's be honest.
I expected it to be like you start with a gun in hand and just start shooting immediately. It actually, there's like 5 minutes of like kind of moving through cool environments before you get there. But
and then you start shooting?
Yes. And then I started blasting.
Nice.
It is just a joy to play. It's so much fun to play, and I highly recommend it. Especially if you're into like circle strafing and managing a large room full of enemies of different kinds that are all doing different sorts of attacks at you, it is for you.
Cool.
I suspect that if it comes out next year, there'll be some. It's a game of the year caliber game already, I would say, from what I've played.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So, yeah. That's all I got, though. So, there's something I have been wanting to get back to, though. I can't stop thinking about it. And that's Bugsnax.
Yeah.
Allison, you finished Bugsnax.
I finished Bugsnax. I am like sitting here in anticipation of somebody else on this podcast finishing Bugsnax.
Oh, I will. Don't worry, I will.
I know that you will. But I'm like, I want to talk about it now because there's a lot in that game that I don't want to talk about because of spoilers.
See, now you know how I felt for years with Danganronpa V3.
So the problem I'm encountering is that I feel like I have to play through Odyssey. Like I can't do anything else because the second that I step away from it, it's
100%
like hard to get back to it. So
like thinking about going back to Odyssey, I'm like, I'd have to restart that game because I don't think I could
and I
like go back and
I'm not going to finish it and roll right into Valhalla. I really want to try to just like
honestly
have an extra day off next week, so I'm going to try to just hammer through it over the next. I'm about a third of the way in. I'm looking at like a list of quests so I can kind of track how far into the game that I am for the main quest. I'm like a third of the way in after 20 hours. I think I can probably play 40 hours of it in the next 2 weeks. Anyway, Bugsnax though.
Bugsnax. Talking about Bugsnax. Yeah, so that game goes places and I was like really, really impressed. I think the game itself is I mean without even spoiling anything, you can see that it's cute, it's fun, it
is an E-rated game.
It's just genuinely fun. Is it though? Because again,
I've heard that the thing that made me like even more excited about it is when they talked about it on Waypoint. Patrick Klepek was talking about it and how he enjoyed it, and Austin Walker was like, but this is like, Klepek was like, it's kind of like a kid's game, and Austin was like, okay, because I know it has this horror element that they teased, but it's not a horror game. Klepek was like, no, it's not. And then Austin's like, okay, so it doesn't go in like a don't hug me, I'm scared direction. And Klepek was like, well. And so that made me very excited because I love Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
I've seen people on Twitter be like, oh, I'm playing this with my children. And I'm like, sure about that?
What I've heard is that as long as you don't explain it to children, it's fine. But
like children's media sometimes goes into wild directions.
Such as
Paper
Mario. Doesn't that also have some kind of...
Oh yeah. But like, I mean, that like kind of similarly to Paper Mario, I was not anticipating going into this game and being as emotionally invested in all the characters as I was. But it is like some of my favorite character writing I've seen in a while, and that is like, I was not expecting that. Like, because I was expecting, like going into it, I was expecting it's going to be cute, it's going to be weird, it's going to have that little creepy element, and maybe, but like ultimately, I wasn't expecting that the characters would be so good, and yet playing that game, I really highly suggest that, like I didn't end up doing the platinum yet because I was just like, I just wanted to get to the end of the story. But I do suggest doing all the side quests because all of them like solely are character building, and they're like going through all the characters, and there's so many characters where you're introduced to them and you're like, I don't know about you. You seem kind of, I'm not sure about you. You're kind of annoying, or you're kind of mean, or you're kind of whatever. And then you start seeing all the like reasons that they're that way, and all of the reasons that they put up those walls about themselves and their motivations and what they want to do with that. And you're just like, why do I love all these characters that are named stuff like Snorpy?
I'll say even just the like hour or two that I played, I was like legitimately blown away by how good the writing and performances are.
Yeah, the performances are so good.
And I already had fairly high expectations because they released the voice cast and stuff. So I was already, it wasn't like I was coming in without expectations. And it's really fantastic, especially considering that the dialogue that I've seen so far is very much in the format of like a classic like Spyro or, you know, Ratchet and Clank or whatever, where it's not like you're in these super dynamic moments with these characters. It's very much like they're on screen in front of you and there's a dialogue box below and they're talking.
It's kind of like Oblivion, really almost.
Good.
From what I've seen,
it's not like RPG dialogue.
No, but it looks like it's kind of that.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
It looks like, just from watching it
like
seems...
at the start, you're like, it's like, hey, I need some Bugsnax. Please get me this Bugsnax. Like, you know, like there's more to it than that. Like, because there's a lot of flavor to it. But like at the start, like that's kind of the like the drive of it is like, hey, I would like to bring me my favorite Bugsnax. And then you go and you're like, well, you have a hot dog on your wall with hearts around it. I guess that's your favorite.
And I guess what I'm getting at is that I think, you know, as a almost 30-year-old person who's been playing games my whole life and has really loved RPGs to a degree in first-person games, and even in games like Assassin's Creed, I think the like very static, like I have entered, I'm at my mark, I'm going to stand here, and we're going to emphatically move our upper bodies while we talk to each other. That kind of like dialogue it's surprising to me that we haven't found a way to be more dynamic over time. Like nobody does that. Or when people don't do it as much as it happens in those kinds of games. So the fact that Bugsnax still leverages that in such a way that is really impressive from a writing and performance standpoint is really cool.
Yeah, and it starts out like you're like, oh, okay, this is this stock character, or, oh, this is the stock jock, or this is the stock kind of snooty gossip. Like there's all these characters that kind of fit these stock molds, and then you're just like, by the end, I was like emotionally invested. I was like, I think I cried, but that's also not a surprise because like things make me emotional. Yeah, it goes like really good places with the characters and with the storytelling. So I was really impressed.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back to it.
So it's like very interesting because it's like I feel like a lot of people got interested in Bugsnax for like the memes or the music or the aesthetic of it all, and I'm like that's just scratching the surface of Bugsnax.
Yeah, and that's, you know, to talk about what I was worried about with that game is I was worried that everyone was going to get invested in it because of the memes and the music, and then the game itself was going to be middling. But it turns out that the game is a lot better than the memes and the music.
It was me at the end, like being like, I don't want to leave my friends behind, but I'm so proud of the character development they've been through, and I'm just like.
I'll say this: having played a roughly equivalent amount of time of Bugsnax and Miles, I'm much more interested to go back to Bugsnax than Miles. So yeah.
It's Bugsnax is very, very surprising in terms of like I've seen people still say wait, I don't know if it's good as a joke or for real, and I'm like, no man, gotta love the Bugsnax.
The real seems better than the joke in the end.
Yeah, oh totally. And I'm really glad that that it exists. And there is some people are already starting to do some like meta-analysis of the game's themes in a way that is really good.
And it seems deserved too.
Yeah.
Like we talking about Cold War, not to dunk on it too hard, but I don't think that there is a lot of meta-analysis to really be done. I think when you do it, it just kind of exposes that it's pretty shallow. Whereas Bugsnax seems like it's intentional and earned.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, like there's a thread on Twitter that is very, very spoilery, but it's dealing with like how thematically the game all kind of ties together. And I think the devs replied and were like, we're so happy people are getting what we were trying to put out there. So
I mean, like, even though I have publicly dunked at this point on Octodad, there's no doubt that the narrative themes of that game are actually are pretty deep and really the ways in which it like examines parenthood are really impressive for a game, especially a comedy game. So I'm not surprised that Bugsnax does that, but it's great to hear that it does. Yeah,
and one of the devs behind it said specifically, like, every interpretation is valid, but this one hits home and makes me feel like we did something right about about the thread that I saw. So I was like, it just, I don't know, man, it makes me so happy. I'm at the point where I'm probably like, this is my solid number 2 of the year after Hades. Yeah. Like I love Bugsnax so much. And I'm like, I played it and I got very, very emotional. So if you're thinking of playing Bugsnax, but you're like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like my type of game, or you don't think that it's something that you want to do, you know, if any of this sounds good, I would definitely recommend it. Also, in terms of representation, holy moly, is it good too? Multiple queer couples, a non-binary character played by a non-binary person.
Yeah, and also from the little that I've played so far, what I appreciate about it is that it's not pandery either. Like, it's not like, look at our queer couples. It's just like they're just there in the world.
They're couples,
cool. And they're well developed and realistic.
And one of them, you're just like, you gotta get your act together, man. But it's very cute. It's adorable. And there's also, you can also catch a burger character that sings its name is Bunger,
and it comes out of the speaker and it's great. Bunger.
But also the way that some of them like almost sing their name, where he's like bunger 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 bunger.
Yes.
I was just like, this is the best game.
Especially when they're walking around too.
Yeah, they're like singing along,
around going bunger 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 bunger.
Yeah, because it's like, you're used to that with like Pokemon where they're saying their names, right? But they're like singing their name. And like,
I'm not trying to shit on Pokemon, but like, you know.
But also,
Pidgey's a bird.
Hey, I'll shit on Pokemon.
I love Pokemon, but also Pokemon could take some notes from Bugsnax, especially when it comes to like, if they want to keep doing like kind of the more 3D, like better graphics, open world Pokemon. Like in terms of catching Pokemon, if you could like catch them like a Bugsnax with some of the little puzzles, that would be really interesting.
And I just think Pokemon is like, I don't know. I'm not trying to shit on Pokemon because I like Pokemon.
I mean, like, I love Pokemon, but it's very much it's gotten to the point where it's very kind of old fashioned in how it operates.
And Bugsnax goes to show how much personality matters so much more than like making something wild looking. Like,
oh, totally.
The strawberry bug in Bugsnax is just a strawberry with legs and eyes.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's my favorite Pokemon if you just dropped it in a Pokemon game exactly as it is in Bugsnax, because it's I'm
actively like, they're going to sell a Strabby plushie, and I'm like, I kind of need the Strabby plushie.
Oh yeah, I will absolutely need some plushies from Bugsnax because the characters are great and they're pretty simple, but they're really great designs because they viewed them with so much personality in the animation and the sounds and everything. So
Yeah, and then you have all the like. There's just like there's a lot of like little clever things. There's legendary Bugsnax that are like boss
I'm excited about
monsters.
that because I don't know. I only know the one they show in the intro, and
Yeah,
I'm excited to uncover those. And I haven't been spoiled on any of them, so
yeah, and you're like, well, how do I defeat this boss Bugsnax?
Are there shiny
It's
bug
very
snacks?
great. No,
Okay.
which I mean, good because like I still haven't gotten a shiny in sword yet, and I keep trying. So I say is like very dejectedly. So yeah, no, but Bugsnax is. Oh gosh, I need to. I am setting up notifications so that when the Strabby plushie comes out, I'm gonna buy it because. Let's be honest, I need it. No, I've already signed up for that list. Anyways, yeah. Anyways, play Bugsnax. I'm really excited to for the end of the year when we can chat about stuff in more spoilery detail. I'd even be up for a spoiler cast of it if anybody wanted to.
Cool.
I might end up getting there. We'll see where I'm at. You also impulse bought a game that I very almost impulse bought myself this week. Came like in my cart, hovering over the purchase button, and then barely waved off.
Yeah, I bought Fuser. I think I even said on this podcast that I intended for it to go down in price before I bought it. But then I watched the Giant Bomb Quick Look and I was like, oh, that looks really fun.
I'm really on the edge.
It looks really fun. It is a fun game though. And it'll probably end up in my top 10 of the year, to be honest, because it really is kind of a fun toy to play around with.
So
the campaign itself is pretty much like tutorial, I'd say.
Yeah.
It unlocks like various things and kind of ramps things up slowly enough that you're like, okay, you're not just handed all the tools right away and said, here, go play. Because you're just like, there are a lot of different tools that you can play around with.
What were you gonna say, Alex?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, like, is the game part good or is like the free mix part good?
I'd say the game part is pretty good. I've played a little bit of the free, like kind of the free mix part, and then I've played some of the game part. I haven't done any of the online component at all, or any of the cooperative or battling type thing. But the thing that I like about the campaign is that it does give you some sort of restrictions, which makes it a little bit more it makes it more gamey, and it kind of makes you step out of your comfort zone, like both musically, and it makes it you kind of try different things that you might not always, because I found that if I'm left to my own devices, I will kind of start relying on some of the same songs or some of the same musical things that I know work really well and that I really like to listen to. Whereas in the campaign, it might be say, hey, this is like specifically, we want dance music. Here are several tracks that have to be in your crate that you take with you. And then you can add more, but you'll still need to use some of those. So it kind of forces you a little bit out of your comfort zone and can lead to some interesting stuff. So it's yeah, so I think it's really, really fun. I don't know if I would say, I don't know if I'd say if it's worth it for $60, but I've been really enjoying it, is the thing.
The problem is I'm struggling a little bit because like what I've heard from it, I've mostly heard them talk about it on the Bombcast, but
yeah,
I trust Jeff Gerstmann's opinion on this game pretty implicitly because he is someone who has done this kind of stuff like as a hobby and is into like digital audio and editing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems like FL Studio or Ableton Lite.
Yeah, and he's indicated that it's pretty robust and actually really
it does go a lot of places. you can like once you start, you mostly really do need to unlock it through the campaign, but you can really just play with pretty much everything. Like there's several effects that you can do. You can change the tempo, you change the key of the piece. You can mess around with a whole lot of stuff in there.
As someone, it's tough because like as someone who earlier this year, one of my I had all these ideas for hobby stuff I wanted to get into over the being quarantined and stuff. And some of it I got into a little bit and some of it I touched on. And then I had a lot of shitty personal, stuff happen that a lot of us have around like losing family and stuff like that. So I just kind of killed my motivation to like take on new hobbies like I had originally thought I wanted to. One of those things was I was looking at more digital audio production and something I have some experience with, but I wanted to kind of update that experience and get more into it. So this game seems like a great way to scratch that itch a little bit.
I'd say it does for sure.
But the issue I'm having is I look at it and go, it's not a $60 game because I'm going to buy it. I should buy the $100 one that has all the extra songs in it.
Gotcha.
And then it's like $100. I'm not sure if, given that I just bought a PS5 and
I totally get that.
It's tough, like I want to, and it's not like I couldn't, but I'm also,
especially if you view it like as $100 game, then that makes it a little trickier thing. Because I'd say 100% for you personally, Pat, like $60. If you wanted the $60 version, I would say probably go get it. But at the same time, like the one thing I'll say is that I think for all of the other stuff that you can get in there, you can buy it separately. So like I might piecemeal buy a couple extra songs that are in there. But at the same time, I don't necessarily need to buy all of the songs. So I don't know,
and it looks like it comes with the VIP edition is basically a $10 savings. Because you get 25 extra songs and they're $2 a piece. So if you were to buy them piecemeal, you'd be spending $50 to get those 25 extra songs instead of. So maybe I'll just get the $60 one to get started and then buy.
And there's also piecemeal. Like very specific. There's specific like cosmetic upgrades too. Yeah. So if you're not necessarily caring about it, and I mean, in the game, there's quite a few cosmetics as well. So I personally say don't think that I need the look packs that they have for the game. It's just more of there's a few songs in the in that pack where I think I could be into that, but I don't necessarily need all of them or need all of them right away. So
I just got to look at what's in each version of it and see if how I feel about all that. I'm gonna have to buy Evanescence Bring Me to Life because I need the thing is that I'm all the meme songs right now. I use and they work so good, and that's the thing that's been really fun is that meme songs are songs that are very memey, have like a lot of good hooks that make them very fun to mix in with each other. Sure.
Because one of my go-tos is with mixing it is Never Gonna Give You Up, because the piano in it works really well with a lot of other stuff.
Totally.
And it sounds really nice. I use All Star by Smash Mouth quite a bit in my mixes, and it's very, very fun. I think it's really, really fun, and it's very, very neat because with the campaign, there's definitely like scores that you can get. There's star rankings that you can go for, and you can fail if you want to, although you can turn off being able to fail a thing if you want to. So there is game in there, but then once you're doing kind of like the freestyle mode, you're basically it becomes like, okay, I want to make something that sounds really good to me. To the point where I have a couple of things where I'm like, I want to go back and remix the thing that I mixed a while back because I really liked how it sounded. And I don't get that from other music because I'm like, man, that mix I made was really good and I got to go listen to it. And as somebody that hasn't really, like, I've done very, very basic audio mixing. Like I used to do internet karaoke, so I used to mix audio together for that, but it was very, very simplistic, mixing people's vocals with an instrumental track. But here it's like it's robust, but it also is accessible enough that like almost immediately you feel like, all right, I am making something pretty good to listen to here. It's very fun in that way to be able to say, okay, I have I'm able to have this level of creativity and make something but also make something listenable.
Yeah, it looks like too that the VIP edition just comes with the launch pack, so you can also even get the songs that come in the VIP edition for a bundle as well. So
yeah,
maybe it makes sense to just get the base game and start there.
I'd say so. I mean, like I said, it is almost certainly going to be at my top 10 of the year because it is very fun, and it is also I think a really good game to just if you just are like kind of bored and want to do something for the next 10 minutes, is to like pull it up and just be like, I'm going to make a mix for a little bit, and like
yep.
And then you're just like enjoying all that stuff and making some weird unholy combinations of sounds, but somehow sounds good to you. Sounds good to me.
I was doing that with Spin Rhythm, which is a rhythm game that I really, really like, highly recommend to people. But I hit a point with Spin Rhythm where I got good enough at it that it was becoming like, I need to play this and really, really focus. So it sort of lost that, like, I still love it, but it lost that sort of like, oh, I got 10 minutes to spare, I'm going to play a couple songs.
Yeah. And I think that if you play, that's why I like that there's multiple modes in that, because you can play some of the ones where they have specific requests. The audience will be like, hey, play me All Star by Smash Mouth. And you're like, okay, I'll add that to my mix now. But you can also, but in freestyle mode, there's basically no restrictions. So you can kind of sit around and just mess around with the music and mess around with what you think sounds good. And it feels like there's a nice balance between, okay, I can, if I have 10 minutes and I just want to mess around, then you can do that. Or you can also try really hard. And some of it can get kind of tricky too with the requests, but you're also trying to make it sound good to yourself, because you're like, I could match all the requests and have it sound terrible, but what fun is there in that?
I need Neil Cicierega to start streaming this game.
Oh my God, me too. Basis. That's what I was thinking. Well, especially putting an All-Star in there. I was like,
Can you just put the whistle?
But it's
because that would be very funny.
I don't know if you can have the whistle in there, but I don't know if you can just put the whistle on.
They need to add the Yahoo.
Oh my God, please.
Guy as a triggerable sound effect.
Please. No, I legitimately, if they put out a DLC pack for this game, that was just like, hey, this is Neil Cicierega inspired memes,
the mouth
songs.
Pack.
Yeah, exactly. I would be I will pay whatever dollar amount.
Call it more mouth.
If they just put the Ghostbusters theme song in there and then you could mix it around in various ways, I'd be like, best game of the year.
Let me tell you right now, I would be, if this game gets a year or more of DLC support. Let me rephrase this. If Ghostbusters is not in this game in the first year, I will be absolutely shocked.
So
seems
so
like there's
mad.
no way. Especially because Harmonix is like the only studio that could make this game and then actually support it effectively.
Right, and then also get all the songs in there, because it's like, because there's like a very wide variety of music too, which I think is the other fun thing too, is that there's so many fun different genres and different types of music in there, where you're like, but then it's all very much only a big studio could get all the agreements to pull that all together.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of the stuff, looking at it, a lot of the songs, there's new stuff too, but a lot of it is stuff that they did for Drop Mix. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how I would be interested to see how those agreements worked out, if it was like how they changed.
I was wondering about that too, because
to Fuser, because it really is. I mean, it's pulling a lot from Drop Mix.
I mean, that's a big part of why I ended up getting it pretty early on, was because I always really wanted to play Drop Mix, but I never picked it up. And I was like, well, this is this is like an even more accessible version of Drop Mix.
And it seems better too. There's more like,
I know that
control.
I know that Call Me Maybe is in both Drop Mix and Fuser,
yes. and it's very useful in both cases.
It is extremely useful. Although the only time I actually failed a level was when I was soloing the vocals from Call Me Maybe, and I was like, you guys just don't understand music, this audience, and I can't work with this. Yeah, it's the one thing I'll say is that I bought it on Switch, which is not really a surprise given me, but also just like mostly for the kind of portability of it and being able to just pull it out and just play 10 minutes and put it away. The cutscenes run like ass on Switch.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which makes sense, but at the same time, the cutscenes are very, very short, and it's very much like, hey, I'm this weird DJ, come play at my stage, okay, bye. And you're like, okay. So it's very like the story involved is very, very light, but I had that brief moment of like the first cutscene running like complete ass, and I was like, no, is this gonna be real bad? But when you actually play it, it's fine. But
that's good.
I had that moment of like, oh no, did I make a mistake buying this on Switch? But
always a risk.
That's
always a risk because you can't return on Switch.
Yeah, no, it totally is. I hadn't seen. I saw people say that they're playing on Switch, so I was like, okay, I haven't heard too much about it, and it's just been the cutscenes, and I'm like, that's fine, because it's just like you meeting these DJs and them being like, hey man, I am an established DJ. Here are my character quirks. I am a stoner. Okay, let's see what you can do. And you're like, great, okay. And then actually playing it runs smoothly. So
cool.
Well, I will say that one thing that Fuser doesn't have, maybe someday they'll put some Huey Lewis in the News tracks in there. Right now.
Wish. Oh my god. No, they have like a lot of time periods in there, but I know that you're segueing to the news. I know that you're segueing.
I actually don't give a shit about Huey Lewis in the News at all.
But also, I could do more kind of songs like that, or yeah.
I know, Chicago. Just Chicago's greatest hits.
Cats.
20-song pack.
Oh my god.
No, I mean the band Chicago, not the musical.
Oh.
I would really dig "Wake Me Up Before You Go" by Wham in there.
That's got to make it. That'll make it in there. There's no way.
That would be extremely fun to play with. But yeah, I know that you're segueing to the news.
Bring in Metropolis Part 2 pack. That wouldn't line up with anything.
Jesus Christ. In the Hall of the Mountain King pack. Anyway, not not a lot of news happened this week, but the news that did happen was, I guess it was kind of a mix of good and bad. It's not all good.
A lot of
But this first story that we have here is very good. Fleet Fatales is going on.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this, so
It's been good. I think it's been going on for most of the week. It's actually, I think today is the last day of it.
Yeah, I think it's just ending.
Yeah, like I think if you're listening to this on the day we post it, you got about 6 to 8 hours to continue watching Fleet Fatales. It's a GDQ event, a game's done
but
quick.
There's
but it's run by Frame
of
Fatale.
stuff on the YouTube channel. Like the YouTube, the GDQ YouTube channel has a bunch of uploads. So even if you haven't caught them, I'm probably going to go back and watch some of those playthroughs.
very cool. I don't have a lot of thoughts on it because I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't really watch much GDQ, but
GDQ, all women for the Malala Fund. So
very cool.
It's rad.
You should support, even if you don't watch what they're doing. You should throw them some support. We've also got a story about the PS5. The only way to back up your saves is with PS Plus's cloud saves. You cannot put them on a USB stick. I wonder how much of this is tied to the fact that I think external storage in general isn't fully supported on the PS5 yet. And if this will change eventually. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, Alex.
No idea. Yeah, I have no clue. I mean, I don't have a PS5, so I can't test anything with it. Like, I can't plug in something and kind of debug it. But yeah, I don't know. It seems. I mean, PS Plus is pretty much something everyone needs to have at this point, right? Like, so the cloud saves being there, it kind of comes along for the ride. But it does suck that you can't just throw your saves onto a stick or an external hard drive or whatever and just go around.
I wonder if you can, if you do that PS4 transfer thing that you can do, if that pulls the saves that are on your PS4 over with the like system transfer. I didn't do that on mine because I don't want it to look. I don't want it to just fill up the hard drive with all the stuff that's on my PS4. But I wonder if it works that way. I think PS Plus is a pretty good deal because you get Bugsnax and you get like the PS Plus collection, and you know that there's always that one multiplayer game that I thought looked bad, but that's coming in January. So I don't know. It seems worth it. I assume there'll be. I'm sure they've announced what it is for December already. But yeah, it's annoying that you can't just use the hardware in a way that it should be used. But I would say if you're someone who hears the story and gets pissed off about it, you should get a PC. Because at this point, a PS5 is like expensive enough that you're getting into some mid-range PC territory. So I would say that if you don't want to play in Sony's playground and play by their rules, which is reasonable because their rules kind of suck a lot of the time, you should get a PC. Yeah. Hopefully they'll change that and it'll get updated. I think there's general external storage support is still coming for the console. I don't think it can do the full range of things it's supposed to be able to do with external hard drives. So hopefully USB sticks will get better over time. Our next story is one that I'm excited about big time, which is IO Interactive announced that they had announced an announcement earlier this week. And the reveal is that they are working on a 007 James Bond origin story. And I can't think of a studio that I'd be more excited about working on James Bond. They seem pretty much perfect for that IP.
Yeah. Harmonics.
The music in James Bond is pretty good. It's got some pretty good themes.
But no,
James Bond.
yeah.
I was going to say an Atlas James Bond dating simulator, but that would probably actually be really gross. So, nope, never mind. Yeah, I think that IO working on this franchise is a really great match, because Hitman and Bond, like Hitman is like just a more honest James Bond in some ways.
So I imagine it'll be kind of like Hitman,
you know,
but you're gonna have crazy technology to work with, like your watches that shoot lasers and stuff.
And it'll probably be more objective focused and less about just killing the targets. Not that Hitman doesn't have any objectives, but it's much more about like observing the environment and killing targets. The one thing that I hope that it doesn't lose, well, I don't know. One of the things that makes Hitman so great is that it's like kind of everyday locations in a lot of cases. Maybe not every day for like us, but like party in Paris, you know, that's like not necessarily, it's sort of extraordinary, but it's also not what you would think of as like a place to set a video game level. Whereas James Bond's whole thing is like being a super spy and infiltrating compounds and stuff. I hope that it has a lot of like, oh, you're just in Moscow doing spy shit, and you don't always have, you're not always sneaking or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope that it's like that.
The Hokkaido level in Hitman seems very James Bondy.
Totally. There certainly are missions that, I mean, in Colorado to an extent has that kind of like, it's always hostile everywhere around you. But like James Bond doesn't use disguises really. I mean, not that he's never done that, but that's not like a staple to me of the James Bond experience. So part of the reason that it's like cognitively not an overload to play Hitman is because you put on a disguise and then you only have to worry about specific people that might see you for each area. Whereas if it's a James Bond game where there's like 40 guards always looking for you, I could see it getting a little like stressful. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm sure it's going to have its differences for sure. I think it's just a really good match. The thing that I'm really hopeful for is, as someone who likes James Bond, it's like basically a joke at this point that every single James Bond character is a straight white guy. So I would love to see them give you the ability to kind of create your own 007, whether that's like, or just cast a person of color, even would be fine too. But I think it would be cool if it was like, no, you can make your James Bond just because their name. I mean, James Bond is not a real name. It's like a code name. Anyone could be James Bond. And it would be cool if they gave you the ability to kind of make your own character. And then if people want to make a Daniel Craig look like, they can. But if they want to play as somebody more interesting, then they can do that as well. So hopefully that's my big wish list item. We've also got the Game Awards announced this week. Yeah, or the nominations,
it's
I should
fine.
say.
For all 10 games.
Yeah, they're pretty poopy.
Did you know that only a few games exist?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what did we expect, to be honest, though?
Absolutely. I'm happy to see Hades and Final Fantasy get the recognition I think they deserve.
I expected a bit more, given the fact that it seemed like last year was really good. Like, because they were like, you know, games like Disco Elysium showed up all over the place, which was a small studio and kind of came up out of nowhere. And I was like, yeah, and it dominated. Yeah. So it was really awesome to see that. So the fact that so many great indies came out this year, and then like,
I feel like the equivalent is Hades. I mean, in terms of like, here's indie,
but not really. Like, no, like I like Supergiant, but Bastion won. I think they won the Game Award, or like the Spike Game Award.
Right. I mean, like Supergiant is like definitely a higher profile. Like it's a studio that we'd heard of, but it's still like. But I feel like Hades is like, oh well, this is our token indie, and I kind of in a way where it's like, here's the independent game that we're going to nominate in addition to all the other big studio games that we want to keep favor with, because we're going to have announcements and stuff at this. So we're going to.
Yeah, I definitely get that feeling that it very much is like I think that the winners are honest at the Game Awards. I mean, they poll game critics. I don't think they're like faking the the winners, but I do think for the nominees, I mean, if you look at them, Doom Eternal, who is saying that Doom Eternal is the best game of the year? I know some people that love that game. I don't know anybody fronting that as like a game of the year nominee.
Yeah, shouldn't be.
But it's Bethesda's big game, and Bethesda does a lot of shit with Keighley at the Game Awards. So, and
then hey, maybe they'll have like a new trailer for a thing at the Game Awards.
Yes,
and then that also ends up raising the profile of the Game Awards as well. So it's like I do think that there is an element of that, and then also there's an element of, hey, we want to curry favor with these big studios so that we have like the big exclusive announcement at the Game Awards, and then they tend to have like a couple of indies that are kind of their token, and that's why I think Hades is, even if it's not necessarily like it came out of nowhere hit like Disco Elysium was. I think that it kind of fills that similar kind of place.
I think to a degree too, and it's important for us to remember that the Game Awards is like the most populist game awards show or awards thing that exists. Ghost of Tsushima is not going to be on my top 10. It was fine. I thought it was fine. It was good. I don't regret buying it and putting whatever 15 hours into it. I didn't finish it. I don't know that I will.
I think I had the exact same experience as you, Pat, where I'm like, bought it, put like, 10, 15 hours. I was like, that was pretty good.
Yeah. I like the combat in it is better than in Assassin's Creed, but at the end of the day, it does the same thing brain-wise for me, and I like AC more. So,
yeah. So
sorry, what were you going to say, Alex?
For context, if anyone's listening and hasn't looked, I won't read every category, but the Game of the Year category is Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizon, and Last of Us Part 2. And I would swap at least 3 of those games for other things.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I would swap 4 of those games for other things personally.
I know I'm the one person in here who's like, Animal Crossing deserves, but
so that's what I was going to say, though, is like, to me, I don't see Ghost of Tsushima in this place, but at the same time, when I dip into like more like populist, like the replies to Sony accounts on Twitter and stuff, people fucking love Ghost of Tsushima on a large scale, mainstream scale. People are ultra passionate about that game. I think Last of Us 2, and we don't have to litigate this now, I hate that game, but people fucking love that game. Same with Animal Crossing. I don't hate it, but it doesn't speak to me on a Game of the Year level at all, but I think there's like tons of fans who love that game. So I think this list actually is pretty...
Now you know how I feel about Control.
Well, the difference is that I'm right and you're wrong. No, but...
Hey, did you know in Animal Crossing you can fill a museum with stuff and...
yeah, because you could do that in the last Animal Crossing.
And the one before that.
Yeah.
And the one before
you can go swimming. You can you build your island up. The island is new.
Well,
anyway,
being able to terraform it.
Yeah.
Look,
Allison, there are implications here, but at the same time,
I am happy to go. I'm happy to ride with you on Animal Crossing if we can use that as the ammunition to hammer Last of Us further down the list.
Sure.
But that's not a conversation for now. But yeah, I don't know. I think it makes sense on a populist level. I think something like I saw a lot of people complaining that Half-Life Alyx isn't in the Game of the Year category, which is a game I still need to finish. That game seems brilliant from what I have played. Playing that game is fucking impossible for most people. That game requires like $2,000 of equipment to play. So
it's me as somebody that loves Half-Life 2 very much and loves Alex Vance even more so. I'm like twiddling my thumbs going, it'd be nice to play that game, but
yeah, and it's not like Valve is taking strides to make it more accessible for people. So I understand it's probably going to end up high on my list, but it's just like, I'm trying to think of a good example from Microsoft Flight Simulator. Let's talk about that. I'm not sitting here saying Flight Simulator should be on the Game of the Year list, even though it's one of my games of the year, because to properly enjoy that game, you need a shitload of hardware. So I think people need to kind of take a step back and understand that this is a award show for fans more than it is for like actual critical analysis of anything.
Right. And especially like since fans are the ones who are voting ultimately for.
I think the winners are determined by a critic vote, and then there's a fan vote as well. That's like a secondary.
I think
or it has like weight or something.
I think it's weighted. Yeah, I don't remember, but
yeah. But I mean, like, but there's an element to that where it's like people don't vote for like the Oscars or the Emmys or anything like that. Like, kind of like I know everybody's like, when is there going to be video game Oscars? But it's like I think by having people vote for it, it's like it's never going to be that way, because it's like those are specifically chosen by peers who are working in the industry and sometimes make stupid decisions, but like for the most part know what they're talking about. For the most part, sometimes they are fucking dumb. But
I'm almost positive I'm having trouble finding it on the site. I'm almost positive the fan vote doesn't have any bearing on the game that they go game of the year to. I think that's a like sidebar. Here's what the fans voted for. I'm almost sure, but
okay.
I would have to dig on their website more.
Yeah, I can't remember
because I can't remember the specific language, but I'm pretty positive. And then maybe you have changed it this year. I don't know. But in years past, I'm pretty positive that it's more like the Academy Awards, where there is like a selection of people, because the Oscars are determined, they're voted on by a group of like directors and producers and actors.
Yeah, they're voted by like people who are in the academy, the actual academy, which are people who are either like past winners or they're people who are nominated and entered. And there's like a whole like question about the academy, and there's now like there's a whole debate about like academy membership, and should it be really lifetime membership, especially if you're not an active in the industry, which they're trying to figure out, but yeah, it is like a group of peers who are, and then specific categories are voted by their peers. So like specifically if you're like people who work in production are voting for like the production stuff. Sometimes there's still bananas decisions that go on. Like the best editing going to Bohemian Rhapsody ones was like, what the fuck are you all on? So are you guys like is there just like free flowing cocaine in there so that you're like, so that hyperactive editing is like legitimate to you? But yeah, but it is all people who for the most part know what they're doing.
I found it on the website. Finally, it's 90% determined by critics, and then 10% is the fan vote. So the fan vote does play into it. It's just only 10% weighted.
Which is probably fine, because if someone was if someone was super determined, they could probably write a script or a bot to just vote for the same thing a billion times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the voting jury is more like the Academy. I don't think it's quite as like I don't think there's quite as many politics, but
right. Yeah. I mean I could like honestly talk for years about the Academy Awards, let's be honest, because I think it's really fascinating, but it's also has years and years and years of politics and trying to make things more diverse and trying to make things less kind of stodgy, and then it also has ranked choice for the best picture, which is interesting. So
I do think it was cool to see 13 Sentinels get a best narrative nod. That's good.
It would have been better in best art direction, but it's nice to see it there.
Because I think it looks. I still hate the art direction in that game.
Wait, okay, but like for real, do you know when the eligibility was done for the Game Awards?
That's the thing that bugs the shit out of me, because last year there was the whole thing around like, well, Jedi Fallen Order isn't eligible for shit because it came out November 15th, but then like Spider-Man, which came out November 12th, is eligible for stuff. It's like, I think that the big hemming and hawing from about it last year was that they didn't make Fallen Order available to like the people who decide the nominees early enough, and maybe they did for Spider-Man, but overall it's just like,
well, also, I mean, that's also part of the whole difficulty of making an awards show where it's also an awards show to be promotional, especially like for the holiday season, because like, say what you will about the Academy Awards, going back to that, but like their criteria for eligibility is extremely clear. It's you have to be released in the year that's being talked about, and have a number of dates at a theater in New York and Los Angeles. Like, it's very, very, it's straightforward. But then also with video games, it's tough because there's so much of a bigger time commitment as well. So it's like, it's very weird. But anyways, that
also doesn't fucking work. But anyway, that
was also my I very facetiously but kind of legitimately said where Bugsnax at for the Game Awards.
Well, but, I mean, but like, honestly, to a degree, I think that's a legitimate complaint.
I mean, my facetious statement was Bugsnax for all the awards. And I mean literally every category, but also it's like, but like legitimately, I do think like that could have made it for indie or for art direction or
I will say
narrative. Even
I'm going to put votes together. There will be one thing that I vote for Last of Us Part 2 for, and that is best audio design, because I do think it has probably the best audio design maybe ever in a game. So,
and accessibility.
There you go.
Frankly.
Yes, actually, I do think it should get voted on for that accessibility innovation thing. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's a good list this year, actually, for innovation and accessibility, because Grounded, their arachnophobia slider, I think, is actually a really important innovation just in terms of confronting like phobias and stuff like that in their accessibility design. So it's been a good year for accessibility in video games. Anyway,
yeah, and that was the one thing I was really, really glad to see, was that they had that focus on accessibility.
That's a good category
in the category, and that they're legitimately working with people who know what they're talking about with regards to accessibility.
Last year some of us watched the Game Awards with some of the Super GG folks. I anticipate something like that happening again, so we'll all be able to throw popcorn at the screen virtually together.
I'd be up for that.
Yeah, need to.
But
watch.
I would, though, I might make it be annoying and just be yelling like Hades, please. So.
Oh, I don't think you'll be alone. Yeah, so that's the Game Awards. I'm sure we'll have more to say about that in the future. Surprisingly, this is the most surprising piece of news this week. Apple did a good thing for
as somebody that
all developers
has Apple products. I'm like still shocked.
Yeah, I know. So what was the specifics? They changed it to from a 30% to a 15% cut, right, Alex?
So kind of
under.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it's like in terms of the revenue that your app makes. So it's not specific to games; it's apps. As long as you're under $1 million in revenue, then you are getting 15% of a cut, or sorry, Apple is getting 15% of a cut rather than 30%, which is really significant when you start to think of like that's a 15% difference. So if you made a small app with a couple friends and like you made $500,000 on it, which is really high, like not a lot of companies make it there, but 15% of that is about 75 grand. So that's an additional 75 grand that you're getting. That's enough to, have another employee work on something for a full year. And in general, it like if you look at the stats of the App Store, Apple is making most of their bucks from the top 1 to 5% of like revenue generating games, like your Fortnites and all that kind of stuff, or well, previously Fortnites and that kind of stuff. So this is just a really positive move for developers in general. So I think it's a really good one, and it's much better than the backwards ass Valve one.
Yeah. It sounds like it. I definitely Valve's solution to this problem was like, what are you even doing? Which was they gave you a better cut if you made more money, which is
exactly
ridiculous and very counterintuitive.
Yeah. Well, it's also one of those things where it's, I imagine giving a better cut to smaller developers makes very little impact for Apple, but it makes a ton of impact for the developers.
Exactly.
So it's nice to see.
It encourages growth it encourages growth for the platform, encourages more people to work on that platform for sure, which is important. So yeah, I also see here that we have a PSA fuck Google. I don't know what we're fucking Google for this week, but
I mean,
there's like in general, but also there was the YouTube thing, which was really fucked.
Oh yeah, yes.
Like what was the specifics of that? It's that they're putting pre-roll ads in front of smaller channels, even if they don't see, like if they're not monetized and get zero revenue
even if you're
from
not
it.
monetized.
Yeah. So like they have no choice in it.
Yeah, and like to an extent, I kind of understand. Like, I understand if they had it on as like default, like, and then you had to opt out of it just because I know that video hosting is expensive, and I don't even know if YouTube is profitable yet because it's like it's one of those things where it's up in the air because of how much just sheer amount of stuff that they have to host. But at the same time, it's like that is also partially they probably make most of their revenue from the larger channels as well. So it's also kind of like
they're fucking over all these smaller channels when they're already an extremely toxic platform. It's not like they won any kind of progress in like, I mean, YouTube can be blamed for a lot of the world's current problems.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
I mean, well, look at the
the
DMCA shit that's going on Twitch. Like that, YouTube really propagated that.
Yeah. It's just, man, fuck YouTube. I just wish that people would flee from that platform. I think it's awful. And, you know, I have multiple professional and personal projects that are in that, you know, we put this show on YouTube. So I'm not trying to like profit on one side and dunk on them on the other side. But I really wish that YouTube would just, you know what I mean? Frankly, what it is, and I'm not saying I think it'll happen, but Google needs to be broken up. Like they need regulation. They shouldn't be this enormous conglomerate that they are. Alphabet needs to be broken into pieces the way that we have that companies have been broken into pieces in the United States many times in the past, because it's a ridiculous monopoly on video hosting. Because no, I'm not, you know, Vimeo is not a viable competitor.
Right.
Yeah, anyway, fuck Google as always.
Yep. I ended up ordering an iPhone because I'm so done with Apple after this. With Google after this news. Apple certainly aren't saints, but in the ways that they treat their users, I feel better about them than Google. I think that they treat the world and, you know, developers and stuff, that's questionable, but Google also is shitty.
Right.
Privacy wise, yes, Apple is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like when it comes to like the big technology companies, none of them are great. Like none of them are perfect or even close to perfect. But it's like an element of which one is least bad at a certain point.
Google is doing all the awful shit that Apple does and then a bunch more.
Right. And it's like Apple isn't perfect, but at a certain point they might be less bad than Google. And I think I was looking it up, and I think that like they're certainly not perfect with how they source materials for their stuff, but it's like they're better than others. So it's like,
and I, I think all of it is for the bottom line. I'm not someone who thinks that like corporations do anything for the good of humanity.
No, but
I will say Apple seems to have taken a more aggressive stance in reducing their waste and in improving their sourcing. And the reason they do that is because the people who buy Apple products care about that. And so, or a larger percentage of them care about that than who buy Google products. So like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I think Apple deserves some kind of award, but
but it's
by being a consumer who wants to push them to be better to the world as you buy their products, I think there's probably more to win there with Apple than with Google.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're doing a Sungwon style tier list, I would say Apple's probably like a B tier, whereas like you have Google and Facebook that are easy F tiers.
Yes.
Right. Totally. Yeah, exactly. Where you're like, there's still plenty of room for improvement. But at the same time, like living in the modern world, I need a smartphone. Living in the modern world, I need to be connected to one of these devices. Yeah. Because of, living in the modern world. Yeah. And it's like, so it's at a point where you're choosing between those few companies and Yeah.
So it's not about us being didactic. It's just saying maybe look into the services you use and their privacy practices and how your data gets harvested and used and like how much agency and consent you have over all of that.
Yeah.
And make your own decisions. But I come to the conclusion of fuck Google.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh yeah.
I mean, one of them is a platform that it asks you to link every fucking thing on the internet to your Google account. Yeah. The other one, when you're using iOS and you have an app that needs an account, it'll be like, we're gonna give them a fake email address and then forward it to your real email address.
The first time I saw that on my iPhone, I was like, what the hell? I have been missing out.
The Taco Bell app basically had some weird shit where it wouldn't let that work. And so I was like, fuck you, Taco Bell. Guess what? Your menu sucks now anyway. So
who needs Taco Bell? Also like completely separate, but I've been doing a lot of slightly bad but enjoyable digital art lately. And Apple has iOS has the best applications for it. Like to the point where it's kind of incredible how professional the tools you can get off of an iPad are when
Procreate.
I use Procreate for everything and it's $10 just like flat. Super which considering the cost of Photoshop or looking at digital art from before pre-iPad, pre-Apple Pencil, there's very wildly different tablets and very widely different quality. If you
Wacom.
Some of them can get so expensive. The kind of industry standard is the Cintiq, which is fuck off expensive. So it is nice that it's making digital art a lot more accessible to people because you don't need a Cintiq to do digital art, but then also if you're doing using a cheaper Wacom tablet and one that doesn't have a screen on it, there's a learning curve and everything.
And I think that Apple has done a good job of trying to. They were always seen as the super overpriced, really everything was so fucking expensive. I think they've done a reasonably good job of starting to expand in both directions where they have more affordable options now for their phones and tablets that are actually really good. I have the standard iPad from last year that just
that's what I have too
or something, and it's absolutely worth every penny.
Absolutely.
Really
well
priced.
That's the one I have too. I have the cheapest option to have an iPad with an Apple Pencil, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is the quality here.
Yeah,
is
yeah. It
kind of
doesn't feel like you're
incredible.
compromising and
No.
saying like, well, I got the shitty one. It never feels that way with their
like
products.
I'd eventually want to upgrade to like a pro maybe, but it's like it never felt like it was a downgrade, and to the point where they like I remember talking to like at the person at the Apple store, and they're like, yeah, you probably don't need a pro, like, let's be honest. And I was like, okay, cool.
But also, I don't want to just be an ad for Apple. They do plenty of shitty stuff too. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I'm like, I don't want to be like that person who's like,
yeah.
I don't want to be like an Apple stan, because I'm absolutely not. But
I can't believe you didn't put the news on here though, Alex, that Tim Sweeney's head in ass comments about
didn't want to even give it attention.
I'm not even going to repeat them here.
It's so
stupid. But I just wanted to bring it up to say that Tim Sweeney's a fucking asshole, and that guy can get bent. And I hope that Apple fucking cleans Epic's clock in as far as the entertainment value of that back and forth is concerned. Because Jesus Christ,
extremely stupid.
In addition to fucking Google and to a lesser degree with also some positives, Apple, the fuck Nintendo as well.
A little bit,
yeah. I say as somebody that's sitting next to my brand new Super Mario Brothers Game & Watch, which cost $50. Fuck Nintendo.
Yeah, this thing, so they shut down this Melee tournament, which, you know, it's weird because like I don't know how much, frankly, as someone who's kind of on the outside and just hears shit about the Melee community, the only things I ever hear are bad. So like, I'm not necessarily saying that these are my homies, but also Nintendo shut down a Melee tournament for shitty reason. And it's like, it's like if like Jeff Bezos was like going like following Amazon drivers around or something and yelling in their ear, or like going to your home after you order something from Amazon and asking and demanding you review it or something.
Or Jeff Bezos getting really, really mad about using like a first generation Alexa in a way that he doesn't like. Because
Nintendo is like ultra, they have so much fucking money. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. And also it's because like they're saying it's like because they're using an emulation tool, right? Which like, it might be one thing if they were trying to spread that for like Smash Ultimate or something, but like they haven't been making profit off of Melee for like almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Or like over 15 years. So it's like, it's not, you know, them using an emulator is not going to hurt your bottom line in any way.
Yeah. And frankly, they're using Slippy, the emulator, or like the tool Slippy, part of the Dolphin emulator, to get good netcode because it's an online tournament this year, because it has to be.
Right.
Like it's I don't think it's a compromise they want to make, but it's the best thing they can do to continue having the tournament.
Yeah.
Right.
And so instead they just can't have it at all, which is Nintendo. I mean, if I was a Melee player, I'd be like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not engaging with this anymore. This is bullshit. I'm gonna go play something on a Sony platform or
Rivals of
platform.
Aether.
Well, sort of. I mean, yes. Like,
I don't see that happening, but you know,
no, it's not going to. I'm not saying
people who like Melee are like Melee people, but
at a certain point, it's like it just sucks that these people dedicate themselves to this product you made forever ago, and your response to that is like, "Fuck you, stop." Like,
well, Nintendo used to be shitty about it like 5 to 10 years ago, but it seemed like they got better. And
yeah, I mean, it's like
I think that they needed to use Melee fans to get people on board for Ultimate. That's all that was.
I think they're very much a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of company in terms of like, oh, we're going to do something good. We're going to do something. See,
I think they're always walking forward to the pile of money. And then sometimes it seems like a good thing when they do stuff to get closer to that pile of money. I mean, I really do think that like the reason that what was it that they allowed Melee to appear at Evo or something that one year? That was all just because they wanted it to be marketing for a new Smash.
Oh yeah,
they didn't give half a fuck about that community. There was no, there was absolutely no altruism there whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, right. I mean, there's like, You can say that about like any corporation, really, but
Yeah,
it's
of
like
course.
also, but like, yeah, there's no like, oh, we're doing this out of the goodness of our heart to allow melee at Evo, rather than, this is an opportunity to get more people raring to play Super Smash Brothers. But
it's honestly surprising to me legally that Nintendo can shut them down for this. Like, if I were to run a tournament like this, I would say to all of our competitors, we are going to do a tournament. Here's an NDA for you to sign as to how we are going to make this tournament happen. And in the NDA, I would say if we get targeted by Nintendo for like legal shit, you are also liable for this as well. Yeah. I don't know if that would stand up in court, but I would put it in the NDA, because it seems to me that like if Nintendo doesn't know how they're doing it, then
right,
what are they gonna do? It's more the problem that they kind of, I mean,
but it would be really, I mean, like I know that they're not going to be doing things out of the goodness of their heart, but it would be nice if they could just say like, hey, we prefer you not using an emulator, but we know that the world is fucked right now, so we're going to turn another eye for
just don't say anything. I mean, yeah, they just don't have to say anything, and they always worry about these precedents, but it's like, look, it doesn't fucking matter how many emulator sites you take down and how much you do this shit. If I want to go play Super Mario Sunshine without paying you money right now, it's not that hard for me to do it. If I want to go play like, if I want to go play Breath of the Wild right now on my PC, it's not that hard for me to do it without paying you money. So this, like, it's never worked. This the strategy of like shitting on people to like halt the emulation of games has never worked for any. How many people
are going to be watching this tournament or participating in this tournament that don't know about the emulation being a thing? Like, you know,
all it does as a person who likes certain Nintendo properties but generally does not consider themselves a huge Nintendo fan, all it does for me is go, I don't know if I need to play the next Zelda that much, actually, because you guys suck. Yeah, and I'm more than happy to not participate in your community.
As somebody who I guess I'm probably the big Nintendo fan of this podcast, I'm like, well, fine. I'll play the next one, but I'll be mad about it.
I mean, I'm playing Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft sucks, so I get it.
I think your attitude, Allison, is the more common one, though, because I think Nintendo often gets a pass, just for being Nintendo. Like, look at our next story. It also sucks big ass, and it's Nintendo being just full of shit. And it's just like, you don't see people talking about it as much and being as critical of Nintendo because they're the darling. They're like, oh, everyone loves Nintendo. Oh, they do quirky things, and like the Switch is weird, and like, wow, they don't understand the internet.
Well, with this next story, how intentional was? I really don't know much about the story. I saw stuff about it, but was it like
the story is that
by mistake or
that's a handful of streamers were banned from Twitch for streaming the new Hyrule Warriors game because it was, quote, ahead of release, but it was technically out in their region because it's a rolling release for the game. So it was like streamers in Australia, and I want to say in parts of Europe as well. That in Europe they were streaming it like a half hour before it was technically out, but that Nintendo got them banned. Whether it was intentional or not, the response from Nintendo should have been to get them unbanned immediately. So it's kind of like, it's just shitty. And I agree with you, Alex, that I think that they get a pass. The struggle with Nintendo, and this is a personal opinion, so I'm not saying I think you should spend your money in the way that you feel good about. So I'm not telling you, like, I'm not trying to give you an out, but Nintendo is at such a critical mass that it is unlikely that certainly if everyone came together and said, we're not going to buy Nintendo products until they start treating us better, it would have an effect. No doubt. The difficulty in organizing that kind of a mass approach, mass boycott or whatever, it's just not really feasible.
Especially after like this year was remarkably good for the Switch, like in terms of sales and everything. It's like you'd have to have a very big concerted effort.
So to me, the solution lies in, this is why, and I'll probably end up playing Breath of the Wild 2. I'm not trying to like make a stand here that I'm boycotting it, but I think at the end of the day, like with many things, it's sort of a, you know, if you are already not going to play something, it's very easy to say, well, I'm not going to engage with that. But I also think it's reasonable to say, I'm a really big fan of this media and it's important to me and I'm going to continue to consume it, even if the company making it is not my favorite. And the thing that everyone can do, regardless of which end of that spectrum you fall on, is try to fight for regulation that makes it so they can't be so shitty. Because every corporation sucks balls. So, like, what we really, I mean, in my eyes, the stopping the Big House tournament, which, by the way, University of Michigan football team stadium is called the Big House, which is like holy ground for myself. And so hearing repeated talk about the Big House has been funny. But anyway, the answer when I see this to me is to say to, like, not that I have done this necessarily yet, because there's a lot of shit going on right now politically in this country. But to me, the answer in a normal year where there isn't all this crazy stuff happening would be to write my representative and say, hey, just so you know, this thing happened. I think that, you know, we should push for regulation that prevents this. This company isn't profiting off this product, and there should be a way for people to engage with it safely without this company threatening legal action. You know, like, taking those steps to try to push for regulation will force those companies to be better. And so just a thought, just look at that as a solution rather than just getting mad.
Yeah. And outside of the Nintendo specific topic, like, this isn't written down in our document or whatever, but there was an article on Medium that Damon Reese of the studio that made Necrobarista, the Highway, what is their name? I can't remember it right now.
Route
59?
I almost said Route 69. It's Route 59. I think,
yes,
right?
I can remember it was Route 59 or Highway 59 or
Nice.
It's Route 59.
Thank you. Yes, they wrote a article about what it's like to be a creator in Australia, and trying to find international success, and the amount, like, of how hard it is to be an Australian creator and, like, show purely Australian things, like how it feels like in order to be successful outside of Oceania and stuff like that, like, you need to be pandering, like, you need to pander to American audiences. And I don't know if that, you can see that a couple ways. You could see it the Crocodile Dundee way of overplaying the Australian thing and making it into a joke, or just making it, you know, seem like American content, like it's not from there at all. But they talk about Necrobarista. They make some examples from Necrobarista that, honestly, I had made the same mistakes that they call attention to. Like, they point out that you have, at the very start of the game, it has the terminal in Carlton, Victoria, Australia 3053. And I was under the impression that that meant it was the year 3053.
Me too.
Yep.
Me
but
too.
no, it's essentially the equivalent of a postal code. And I was like, oh, it's a modern day game. It's set in, like, 2019, 2020, but I didn't clue into that. But for an Australian, that was, like, probably blatantly obvious.
I think that's a tough problem to solve because beyond country to country, I'm certainly sympathetic to it, but, like, I would love it if games made specific references to, like, regional things that are important to me, but, like, people all over the world kind of don't get it, you know? Like, I certainly think that games and media are far too, like, American centric. I definitely agree with that premise, but it's also tough because it's like, it's not that I don't want to learn about Australia. It's just that I don't know that much about it. And
I actively really like when there's references that I don't understand and things like that. Like, because I like to right, exactly. And I think that, I mean, it doesn't always have to be like an educational experience, but I personally really like that feeling of, I don't necessarily know everything that's going on here. That's okay.
Yeah.
But
like,
are you bringing it up specifically because it was Australian Twitch streamers that were hit by this Nintendo thing?
Exactly. And because it seems like it's very easy for us in North America to just be like, oh, yeah, that's a thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Haha, Australia. But like, no, it's.
Yeah.
That is an everyday life in Australia is different than everyday life in the United States or Canada or, France or wherever. And it just kind of sucks that they get the short end of the stick and just kind of have to deal with it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and if we're talking about cultural things, yeah, sure, Canada, it's the same way. Like there's a lot of stories like that are very, very Canadian that talk about Métis and stuff like that like never find success outside of Canada because no one has that context, and people who want to tell those stories have a really hard time, spreading those stories. So I can kind of understand it from that perspective, and I think it's a really good article. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes. It's worth a read and also worth thinking about.
I do think regionally too that Australia gets screwed a lot by the technical aspects of games frequently, because like often they're lumped into servers that are maybe not the best ping for them and for multiplayer games, and stuff like this Twitch banning thing where like release timing can sometimes be super screwed up for people in Australia, either in situations like this where they get the game early and then talking about it gets you yelled at for a variety of spoilers or this instance where you're getting banned,
breaking North American NDAs. It's like, well,
right, yeah. And then there's also the fact that like games and game hardware cost a shitload of money in Australia.
Yeah.
So I think it sucks. It's not fair the way that Australia tends to get treated. And in some cases it's not sometimes you can understand it if it's like an accident, or if sometimes the reason that hardware or games cost so much money there is because it's costs more to get things there or whatever. But when it comes to like a digital game costing twice as much there as it would here, it's just like, come on. So I definitely think it's important to keep that stuff in mind.
Yep. And again, that the name of the article, because I didn't say it before, was The Uncanny Valley of Culture. So worth a read.
Our last news story is one that I am deeply excited about, for a game that super came and went, both for me and for the world. Which is too bad. But Star Wars Squadrons is getting the exact opposite of what they said was going to happen, and they are dropping a holiday supply drop, which includes a B-Wing and TIE Defender for the game, which means that I can enjoy it more because the B-Wing is the best ship in Star Wars.
B-Wings are rad.
They're super rad.
Use it.
Which one's the TIE Defender? Is the TIE Defender like the triangle one? Like it has the three wings?
Yeah, it's got three wings. Yep.
Okay. I remember that from TIE Fighter.
And honestly, part of the reason that I was never sure if they would put the B-Wing in is because I was like, well, you can't just have one side with more ships. What would they put in on the Empire side? And I thought that all of the solutions to that problem were too obscure, but they went with the TIE Defender anyway. So I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I didn't think they would ever put ships in that were not from the movies. So it was cool to see the TIE Defender making an appearance. So I'm excited for that. I hope it's a sign of things to come. I hope they get a big player bump so that maybe they'll do some more add-ons like this over time.
I know that I'd like to check it out eventually.
It's a good game. The reason that I fell off of it is because my HOTAS has some issues just generally. It's getting old. I kind of need to look at replacing it soon. And I actually wanted to replace it for that game, but it's fucking impossible to find MSRP gaming equipment, any hardware, because it's sold out everywhere. So I want to get a Logitech or Cytec X52 to replace it with. And I couldn't find them anywhere. They were for anything less than like $400, which they're like $200 MSRP. So I was not going to pay more than MSRP for it. So there was that. And then the VR support was like, it's fun to play it in VR, but it's also always, even though I have the simplest VR solution for it, it's still a hassle. And playing it in not VR, I did the whole back and forth of like, well, I should play it in VR because I can. And then the third thing that really was the nail in the coffin was that I don't think that their big fleet battle mode is particularly good, which is kind of like the focal point of the multiplayer. I think that the dogfights are really fun, but the like MOBA mode that they have just doesn't work in my opinion. And maybe with some balance, it's gotten better. I think it could work really well. It's just that with the balance being what it was, there were things like people would just park an X-Wing in space and then point the nose down at the top of a capital ship and just fire away. And that was a viable strategy because they had so much health that you couldn't kill them in one pass. So they could just like take a third of the health off of a capital ship that way. It sucked. So anyway, all this stuff makes me excited to give it another look though, because I liked the way it played a lot. It's the issues with it were totally fixable and things that could be easily solved with a little more balance and thought put into it. So
okay, so question.
Hopefully this is a big bounce.
Question. So the X-Wing was already in there. Could you I forget the term they use, but like could you change the wing formation? And if so, does that mean you can do it with the B-wing and just kind of have it flip back and forth like horizontal and vertical?
No, so it doesn't let you control the foils. Right. So there's no they're probably the B-wing it'll be like a little cutscene at the beginning. It'll warp in and be in the like flat configuration, and then when you're actually flying it, it'll flip out. Which I can live with. I can deal with that to get the B-wing, because that's like my favorite Star Wars ship, and they're very cool. They're also adding new like attachments, basically new like modifications to the ships, which that was a surprisingly deep aspect of it that I was not expecting to be as good as it was. So hopefully that'll be cool. I just hope that they worked on that mode a little bit, because in the dogfight mode, it doesn't make sense to play as bombers or support ships at all, because they just get shredded by the interceptors and fighters. So for the B-wing and TIE Defender to be useful, they'll need to probably be in the main fleet battles mode. So yeah,
fair enough.
Going out on a high note. I think that's going to do it for this week's Gaming Fyx, unless anyone else has anything to add.
Speaking of going out on a high note.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get some hummus.
Sweet.
Nice.
So I was going to ask where people can find you, but they can find you at the Hummus shop, it sounds like. Excellent.
That's the one.
Allison, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
You can find me on Twitter at PJC Plays. You can find the podcast, I never have to say it, but it's at Fyx Podcasts on Twitter. And you can find Alex's is your review for Umineko? It's up, right?
Yep.
Alex has a review of Umineko up. That is a great read, even if you're planning on playing it. No spoilers there, so I thought it was well done in that regard. That's over at fyx.space. Anybody else have anything else to add?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.